Boynton Beach City Commission is now called to order. Today's Tuesday, July 30th, 2024, and the time is now 6:05 p.m. Now, this is a workshop, and what that means is that we will have extended discussions on a variety of topics. However, no final decisions are being made tonight. Again, no final decisions are being made tonight. Before we proceed, I want to remind everyone of our rules of civility and decorum. Speakers must first be addressed by the chair and not interrupt any other speaker. Personal attacks and hate speech are strictly prohibited. Public comments must be addressed to the commission as a body through me and not to any individual on the dais or in the audience. Disruptive behaviors from the audience, including but not limited to yelling, stamping of feet, and other demonstrations, are strictly prohibited. Should violations occur and persist, you may be asked to leave these chambers. These rules are in place so that the City Commission can conduct the business of the city in an orderly and timely fashion, and so that all speakers can be heard. City Clerk, I'm going to turn to you if you could please begin the roll call.
Mayor Pansarga,
Here.
Vice Mayor Kelly,
Here.
Commissioner Cruz,
Here.
Commissioner Hay,
Here.
Commissioner Turkin.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. And for clarification, Commissioner Turkin is joining us via online this evening. The invocation will be led by Commissioner Woodrow Hay, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag led by Commissioner Angela Cruz. Let's all stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening seeking your wisdom and your guidance. And as we gather for this City Commission Ethics Workshop and special meeting, we ask, Lord, that you grant us the clarity and integrity needed to make decisions that honor and serve our great community. May our discussions be rooted in fairness, transparency, and a deep commitment to the common good. Guide each of us to act with honesty and respect, upholding the trust placed in us by those that we represent. We ask for your blessings upon this meeting and for all who participate. For it is in the name of Jesus the Christ, my Lord and Savior, that we do ask it all. Let every heart say, amen. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you so much, everybody. We are now moving on to agenda approval, additions, deletions, and corrections. Let's begin online. Commissioner Turkin, did you have any request?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Hay?
Yes, I do. I would like to get an update on, we've had this strategy and goals, and we had workshops with Lyle, and yet I've heard, I don't know where we are. So I would like to have an update as to when we're going to have that clarification on where we are with those goals and plans, city plans that we talked about. So if y'all could give that to me tonight, I'd be appreciative. That's all I have.
All right, thank you so much. Let me turn to, I was going to turn to the city manager first, but council, if it looks like you're ready to go, just go ahead.
No, it's a special meeting, and unfortunately, because it's a special meeting, we are strictly limited to discuss what is on the agenda. But if you wanted an update with regard to those items, then it's certainly appropriate for the next regular commission meeting. But with a special meeting, it has to be specifically limited to what's on the agenda for tonight.
So,
Understood, but all I'm asking for is an update. I'm not looking to discuss it. I just want to know, are we going to plan one? Are we going to have it? Are we going to forget about it? That's all I want.
all right, thank you so much. It sounds like, Commissioner, are you willing to have that? We need to have that next meeting. We can't have it today.
That's correct.
City manager, is that something you're comfortable with and prepared for?
I know right now we reached out to the consultant that we have been working with, and it's really going to be up to him whether or not he's going to be prepared to actually give some sort of presentation or update. That's what the holdup was. And I can tell you he was on vacation for 3 weeks.
That's all I need to know. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I do want to hear that myself as well. So as soon as you get information from our consultant, please let us know when he's available. Okay, was there anything else, Commissioner Hay?
No, that's it.
All right, thank you. There's none for me. Let me turn to Vice Mayor.
No, thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you so much. And Commissioner Cruz, did you have any requests?
Just a couple quick things. I support Commissioner Hay. I agree with you. I think it's something that we need to discuss, hopefully at the next meeting. But, you know, is it possible, I understand we have a consultant, is it possible to maybe have a member of staff provide a report at the next meeting just to let us know where we're at, what our goals are? So that, or sometime in August, so that we can discuss this before we finish our budget?
I would actually have to confer with staff to see where we're at. I can't give a date certain.
So we can discuss it next meeting then? Okay. And
And
then.
Commissioner, from what I understand, it sounds like we're just waiting on whether or not this guy's even back. So, yeah, let's get that. Okay. So staff, please reach back out to us once we have that information.
And just realize that it is critical when we're trying to establish this budget and finalize it, that we have that information.
All right, thank you. Commissioner, any other request?
I did request this during the budget hearings, but I wanted to request it again to be added with a date specific. I asked during budget for an inventory of the water meters. I would like to add that for a discussion, if possible, the first meeting in August or the second meeting in August before budget, to show, you know, what are we proposing in regard to rates, and also what's the inventory of the water meters that have not been functioning within the last fiscal year, and what are we going to do about it? And then in the same token, I also requested an update for the fire hydrants in the city that are non-functional. Also, like a quick update on that. I know it's not too many of them around the city, but if we could get a quick update on that, hopefully next meeting. Just really wanted to get that done before budget.
All right, thank you so much. And these are just update requests. I have no issue with that for a future meeting. It's not for today, because today we are limited to the workshop and the special topics that's currently been published. Thank you so much, everybody. With that, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion. I don't know who was first for the motion, Vice Mayor. The second I heard from Commissioner Hay. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those who oppose say no. The ayes have it. Motion passes unanimously. So the first item of this evening is an ethics training presentation from the Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics. We have here this evening, Miss, and please correct me if I'm saying your name wrong, Rhonda Geiger?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So if staff could load up her PowerPoint. Again, this is the training presentation. And take it away whenever you're ready.
Waiting for the clicker.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Rhonda Geiger, Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics. It's always nice to have people in the audience for this, too. I tend to move around when I train, so this might be a little difficult for me to stay in the same place, but we'll give it a go. I really want everybody to know that my goal here tonight is not to teach anybody ethics. Everybody here already has their own personal code, and there's no way I'm going to change that. So what I want to do is make sure everybody understands exactly what the Palm Beach County Code of Ethics is and how it applies to us as public employees in our professional and our personal lives. I'm not going to teach you what to do or what not to do within your head. I'm just going to teach you, hopefully give you a better understanding of how your behaviors and decisions can potentially be impacted by the Code of Ethics. And this is something that I want to remind everybody is we have to be cognizant of this, not only in our professional lives, but things that we do on the weekends, things that we do in our time off. We have to think about it in that situation as well. So that being said, I'll just jump right into who governs us. The Palm Beach County Commission, the staff of the Commission on Ethics, we are an independent body, but we are governed by by this Board of Commissioners. And these are volunteer positions. They serve terms for us, and they're appointed by different agencies and different organizations. So just so we have every facet or as many facets as possible of professional people with knowledge about ethics in this situation, we have it covered. So we have a former elected official or city manager as one of our commissioners. We have somebody appointed by we have an attorney with ethics experience. We have a former law enforcement officer or prosecutor. We have a professor with ethics experience. And we have somebody who has experience in certified fraud examinations. So essentially, we're covering pretty much every component of professional ethics type behavior that you can get. So these people govern what we do day in and day out. And what we do day in and day out are these things. You know, it used to be, I feel like primarily we did investigate complaints, but now more and more, we are dealing with things proactively, which is actually quite nice. We get a lot of questions that we answer ahead of time, and we've done that for people here. We've done that for people on this commission. So you can feel confident in a decision that you're going to make moving forward, knowing that we have already analyzed the facts to a particular situation and said, yes, you can do this, yes, you can vote, no, you can't vote, yes, you can engage in this behavior, no, you can't, yes, you can accept this gift, etc. So really, we're moving those answering questions and providing advisory opinions up a little bit higher. We don't want to be a gotcha agency. We want to be the agency that everybody feels comfortable calling and saying, can I do this? We want to be the agency that can answer a quick question before a council meeting if it's necessary. So that's what we want to do. We want to provide that service for not just commission members, but employees and the public as well. We want to be here to answer those questions. Advisory opinions with respect to that, you guys will know, in fact, we just did one for the city of Boynton Beach, I think last month. So we do provide written advisory opinions. And the nice thing about—
And thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I did that as quick as I could.
Yes, thank you.
The nice thing about those is those become part of our body of law. So somebody else can go back and look at that. Somebody from another city that might have a similar situation can go back, read that, and as long as the facts apply closely enough, they can rely on that to then govern what their movements going forward would be on a particular situation. So it's very, very handy to have those advisory opinions, and we're happy to do those, and we do our best to get those out as quickly as possible.
I'm sorry. 1 second. Commissioner Turkin, we're hearing some background noise. Would you mind putting yourself on mute temporarily? Okay, all right.
Question very quickly, Rhonda.
Sure.
Can you remain anonymous when you report
Had to go
violation
there.
that
You had to go
think-
there, did you? Well, that just changed, Commissioner Hay. So, no, not anymore. But, yes, I guess I should say yes. We can't investigate a complaint that is not filed anonymously, but that doesn't mean we can't still engage in an investigation if facts come before us that appear to be an ethics violation. We can't, as of June of this year, we can no longer initiate our own complaints once, not to get too far into the weeds of this, but what we used to do is we would receive anonymous information. We would do a preliminary inquiry. If that preliminary inquiry looked like there was going to be an ethics violation, we would move it up a stage. Now we can't do that. We can no longer follow. We know what that is?
IT, is that Commissioner Turkin's channel? Could we temporarily mute him? Commissioner, I'm not sure if you can hear us. Okay, it's just we're hearing some background noises. Thank you. I got a thumbs up from IT, so. Okay,
Thank you. Thanks. Sorry about that. So as of this year, June of this year, we can no longer, after that preliminary inquiry, we can no longer file a self-initiated complaint. We used to file them within the commission. What we can do is still conduct an investigation. We can still make findings to a certain degree, and then let whoever know that these are our findings. There's still going to be a public record. So while we can no longer file self-initiated complaints, we can still undergo anonymous investigations based on anonymous information.
So who can file a complaint? Is
And
it
anybody can file a
Anybody.
complaint, yeah. Yeah.
And they would call your office.
They will, or they should probably get online. That's easy too, because the form's right there. All you have to do is grab it. You know, you can even file it electronically. So it's a pretty easy process. Everything's online. But yes, you can also call us, and there's an ethics hotline. We're happy to help anybody out.
Okay.
So yeah, there's several different levels of an investigation that we will go through before it gets to potentially even the complaint process.
Thank you.
Sure. Anything else on this? Obviously, we provide training and community outreach. This is our, one of the things, this is why you guys are getting this. We start doing live trainings here. Anybody here seen the video? Hopefully you'll find this to be more illuminating than the video. It is nice to be able to ask questions like that. You couldn't ask that question online, obviously. So it is beneficial, I think, for everybody, people in the audience, people watching, to hear answers to questions that they may have. And they, you know, lots of people after the fact just won't pick up the phone and call. So we're definitely happy to do these live trainings. And as I said, my primary goal is always just to make sure you understand your responsibilities under the Code of Ethics. So what is the purpose? The main purpose is transparency, to be honest. We, at a local level, have a very unique opportunity to know the people for whom we work. We can know them by face, we can know them by name. It's nice that we can do that. And they are the people that, I mean, literally are paying our salaries. So they have a right to have faith in us as public officials, in you, in me, to know that every day we're getting up and we're doing our job. And our actions are, we're engaging in things that are for the best interest of them and not for ourselves. And they deserve that, and they deserve to have that trust in us. So what we really want is transparency. We're not saying that people can't accept a gift, that public employees couldn't accept a gift. We're saying if you do, you simply have to declare it in a certain situation. You know, that can't be a blanket. But we're not saying necessarily that you can't do things. We're just saying that we want transparency for the public so that they can see exactly what we're doing. And obviously to protect confidential information. We don't want people acting on information that they are privy to because of their job and then getting a personal gain out of that. And as I said, the main thing here is transparency and to increase the trust, the public trust in us as local government and local governmental employees. We need to have transparency. We need the people to have faith in us. So who does it apply to? It applies to everybody, all of us. Many of you are elected officials, so you'll be state reporters, but if you're elected, you still fall under the Palm Beach County Code of Ethics. Any of the rest of us that are in here that are municipal employees or county employees, it applies to us as well. It does not apply to state officers, so the sheriff, the tax collector. It doesn't apply to constitutional offices that are held by the state. They fall under the state Code of Ethics for everything. You guys report to the state Code of Ethics for gifts and certain other things. So you have a little bit of cross responsibilities with respect to the state and the local code. So this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the ethics decision tree. It's a 4-step process. We just ask people to quickly go through before they engage in an action, accept a gift, things like that. And then we're going to talk about prohibited conduct, gift law, and then just some miscellaneous provisions. So the decision tree is something that we just ask everybody to go through when they are considering just even the smallest little things. So the first thing we want everybody to ask themselves is it legal? So I'll just put somebody, do I have any coffee drinkers up here? Okay, Ty, let's go with you. I mean, Mayor Pinter, let's go with you. So let's say you're at a Starbucks.
Just brief request, just
Microphone.
near the mic, yeah.
See,
I don't
like
think the
to
others
move.
can hear you on
I
mic.
like to move.
Yeah.
I asked if you
Or
had.
just tilt the microphone closer.
Well, it's okay.
Okay.
It's okay. I'll try to stand still. It's just.
So
not-
yes,
All
coffee.
right. Okay, coffee. Where do you get your coffee?
Starbucks.
Starbucks.
Common Grounds.
You know, I'm from
name it.
Seattle, so
Yeah.
I don't go to Starbucks for any reason at all. Okay, so you're at Starbucks and you see somebody, you walk up and you order yourself a croissant and a fancy coffee. And you get to the counter and you start to pay and the lady says, no, the person in front of you paid for your order. Can you do that? Is that legal? First question.
Yeah, I was under the impression, perhaps, assuming they're not a vendor and it's.
No, but just legal, like under a law.
is it legal?
Yeah,
Of course,
is it
yeah.
legal?
In
Yeah.
general, it's legal, yeah.
Yeah, just generally, is it legal?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's legal. And when you're analyzing that, we're going to ask you to think very broadly here, not like, is it legal in the city of Boynton Beach, but to say to yourself, well, there might be something that is okay here, but the state of Florida prohibits, or federal law prohibits it. So, and the one thing I use as an example is, I'm from Washington State. Marijuana has been, I'm going to air quote, legal in Washington State for a number of years. Is it really legal, though, is the question. No, it's not. It's decriminalized. They don't prosecute people for marijuana possession, things like that, but that doesn't mean it's legal, right? So don't think that you can go out to Washington, engage in behavior out there that is considered legal there, and not worry about it somewhere else. It's still a violation of federal law. So, and I'm not saying it's a violation of the Code of Ethics. I'm just saying that those are the things we want you to think very broadly when you're thinking of whether or not something is legal. So coffee and a croissant, legal for you to accept that, right? Does it comply with the Code of Ethics? Let's just say it's a random person that's not a vendor, doesn't want to be a vendor, isn't a lobbyist. Even if they were, but for that amount, you're probably okay. But let's just say it doesn't fit in any, it's a random citizen.
I would think so.
Does it comply with the Code of Ethics? Everybody agree? Yeah? Yeah?
You said not a vendor, it's just coffee, yeah.
What if it were a vendor? Does that matter to you?
It would. I don't want to give the appearance of, that they're giving me a gift.
Those are and that's a smart way to think, right? You don't want there to be any, even if there is no impropriety, you don't want the appearance of impropriety, right? But what if they were a vendor and it was just a $10 order? Would that be okay? Under the Code of Ethics, not you personally, but under the Code of Ethics.
I think there is a threshold number, right?
You're right, yep.
$100?
Yep, so let's just say
Is
it's
it still $100?
Yep, for in that category, yeah. So $10, would it comply with the Code of Ethics? Yeah, would you do it? You can say no, but Code of Ethics, yeah, sure, that's fine. So, next question, does it comply with your municipal policy? Do you know the answer to that? Anybody?
Do we have one?
Yeah, you guys are identical to us. So if you get past 2, you get past 3 here. Yeah, you guys are right. Yeah, you're identical. And so back to your original point, Mayor, is could your actions create a problem for your public employer or the people you serve? So, like, I use this example with building inspectors because it's a situation that could easily arise. Let's say you do an inspection, a contractor's there, you finish your inspection, and you've gotten to know this contractor over the course of their work, and the contractor says, hey, let me buy you lunch. So you walk off of that inspection, you sign off on it, and the contractor buys you lunch. Is there anything wrong with that? If there's no quid pro quo, no favors, no nothing, is there anything, does that make it past the first 3 steps? It does, right? Everybody agree? It does. It's legal, it complies with the Code of Ethics, it complies with your policy, but would it create problems? Could it create problems? Would you want that to be on the evening news, is what I always say. What if that behavior, what if somebody recorded you walking out of that house, shaking that guy's hand, and then going and eating lunch with them? That is going to look a little bit suspicious to a lot of people, even if there is nothing wrong with it. So to your point earlier, there are times that even if you get past 1, 2, and 3, for personal reasons or for reasons of an appearance of impropriety, you're going to say no. No thanks, I'll just buy my own coffee, or no thanks, I'm going to pass on lunch today. So we really want you to focus on that last step. If it hit the evening news, I like to say, would your employer, would your municipality, would they be happy about that news story, or would they be saying, oh great, now this is something we have to explain, and we have to make sure everybody understands that there was nothing dodgy going on. So those are the 4 steps we like you to go through before you do something. I mean, I know your brain has to work pretty quick to go through that in that type of a situation, but those are the little things that we want you to remember when you're moving through that 4-step process. Is quickly, is it legal? Does it comply? Does it comply? And then how would it look if it were on the news? Everybody good with 4 steps? Okay. So these are the main sections that we see violations in. So we're going to talk about the things that fall into the prohibited conduct section. We have misuse of office, we have corrupt misuse of official position, we have disclosure of voting conflicts, and we have a section on contractual relationships, and that essentially is second jobs. So first off, we have misuse of office. And you guys, please let me know if you have, yes, I say please let me know if you have questions.
You just stated those 4 items there. Suppose you violate them all. So what? What is the punishment?
That's at the very end, but I promise I'll talk about it.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go to what misuse of office is. This is for anybody who is a public employee or a public official. And this is a bit of a three-step analysis here. Public employees and officials are prohibited from using our official positions in a manner that results in a special financial benefit being given to this list of 7. So we have a special financial benefit being given to somebody in this list of 7. So in this, and this list will apply throughout this training. So these are what we call prohibited entities. If a prohibited entity receives a special financial benefit, that's when things become a problem. So these prohibited entities are themselves, a household member, spouse, or domestic partner, outside business or employer of theirs, or spouse or domestic partner, close family relative, or their business or employer, a customer or client of their business or employer, a debtor, a significant debtor or creditor, and then any organization upon which you might sit, like on the board of directors. So I like to say, like, I would love to sit on the board of Peggy Adams. I like to save animals. If I were sitting on the board of Peggy Adams, in my job at the county, I couldn't engage in anything that would give Peggy Adams a special financial benefit, even if it's a volunteer position, even if I only go there one time a month. So anytime you're on the board of directors, that's going to be considered a prohibited entity with respect to a special financial benefit.
Before you move on, can I ask you about, if you could slide back, close family relative? I just want to make sure there's some clarity on.
It's defined it's defined.
It is,
Yeah.
okay,
It's
okay.
just too big for this. It's a
No,
fairly.
That's okay. I just want to make sure that there is clarity on the definition of
Yeah,
it.
it's a fairly extensive list.
Okay.
But it is in the definitions, yep. Okay, so special financial benefit. You'll notice we have that underlined, which means it's not a financial benefit, it has to be a special financial benefit. So we've narrowed it slightly. So anything of value that you obtain through your official position as an elected official or a governmental employee, in my case. But what makes it special? I'm sure you guys are all wondering, and this is an example I always use. So let's just say, Commissioner Cruz. See how I'm not good at standing still. Commissioner Cruz, let's just say you're sitting up here and you make a motion. I think we should lower everybody's property taxes by $1,000 per year. Or you bring that, you want that to happen. You own a home in Boynton Beach, so you're going to receive that $1,000 benefit. Can you vote on this? Why? It's a financial benefit, right?
Yeah, but within the 1% rule.
Exactly. It's not special. So I really want to point out that is what makes it a code violation, not a financial benefit. If you guys couldn't vote on something that was a financial benefit, you would be voting on almost nothing. Everything, you are members of this community, therefore the things that you vote on are going to have impact on you as well. You just have to make sure that they don't specifically impact you, and that's where we have this 1% rule, so 1 out of 100. So as long as the entire city, every homeowner in the city is receiving that $1,000 benefit, while it is a financial benefit, it is not a special financial benefit, therefore it is not prohibited by the code. Does that make perfect sense? Anybody out here have any questions? Okay. I want the $100,000 benefit. It wasn't 100, it was 1. But I would like that too. If you guys are doing $100,000, I'm moving to Boynton Beach. Okay, misuse of office. Let's talk just a little bit about a potential scenario. A code enforcement officer is assigned to inspect his son's property. May he do that? What do you guys think? Yeah? Yes? No? I'll just tell you. The answer is yes. You're right. Absolutely. Yes. The answer is yes. There's no absolute prohibition in the code. As long as that code enforcement officer simply goes out to the property and does his or her job. And I look at the code of ethics a bit like an umbrella. Like sometimes people may think it catches behaviors that it should miss, and sometimes maybe it misses behaviors it should catch. But this one is written really with the smaller agencies in mind, understanding that they might have a part-time code enforcement officer, and we don't want them to have to go hire somebody to inspect one single property because there's what might look like a conflict. So under the code, there is no prohibited conflict of interest as long as the code inspection or the code enforcement officer simply does his or her job.
So Rhonda, on to further go just a little bit more, in that instance, he goes to a property that definitely has issues and that he's being sent there for a purpose, but doesn't find anything and essentially doesn't fine his son for issues that
You read ahead.
another code enforcement officer may find. No.
Okay, I'm gonna just get, before I get to your question, I moved on to this slide, and I'm gonna tell you, we would recommend in that situation that the code enforcement officer not do that. There is no actual conflict under the code, but we would say that we just prefer that you don't do this if you can get away with it. As I said, this is written to give some leeway to those very small jurisdictions that may have some problems if the situation arose. To your point, how about now? The code enforcement officer has noticed a couple of violations on his son's sidewalk, or on the sidewalk in front of his son's house, as well as the houses on either side of his son. Code enforcement officer cites the other two houses, but not his son's. Now, has he violated the code? Has he violated the misuse of office? So our analysis here is there a prohibited entity receiving a special financial benefit? Yes, his family member. Is it a financial benefit? Yes. And is it special? And do we have yeses to all of these? It's a class of 3, so yes, definitely. So he has, in fact, violated the misuse of office and given a special financial benefit to his son. Make sense? Okay. Disclosure of voting conflicts. So this is you guys, obviously. An official may not vote on or participate in any matter which will provide a special financial benefit to the same specific persons or entities themselves, spouse, domestic partner, household member, outside employer, or a business of theirs or their spouse or domestic partner, close family relative, or their business or employer, customer or client of the official's outside employer or business, a significant debtor or creditor, and then any organization upon which they serve on the board of directors. So, vote on water lines. Proposal comes before the town council for a vote on whether or not to install new water lines in a neighborhood. Council member lives in this neighborhood, and there are 150 homes within that area. And let's just, for the sake of this, let's just say water lines have significant value. Everybody wants new water lines, right? So, may the council member vote without violating the code of ethics? He's gonna get,
Yes.
he or she's gonna get the new water lines.
Yes.
Everybody agree? Yes? Is that a yes? Yes, of course, because why? We have a prohibited entity receiving the benefit, right? And we have a financial benefit, but we're missing the special component of this analysis. So absent that benefit being special, there is no code violation. So because the class is sufficiently large here, there's not a problem with respect to voting. And that is something that comes up quite a bit. And this is one of the places where council members, commission members do reach out to us pretty frequently to get this, because 100 properties doesn't seem that large in a very big city, and people that are in the audience sometimes think that there is some sort of element of bad behavior on commission or council members' parts when they're participating in things like this. So this is where we really want transparency. We do encourage anybody, any voting member, to reach out to us, and we will get that in writing for you as quickly as we can, so you can carry on with the vote. We definitely don't want people to have to abstain if it's not necessary. So we're happy to help to guide everybody through that process.
Rhonda, you use the term significantly large. Is that 1% you're talking about?
Yep, 1%. So yeah, it's gonna be, if the class is 100, if you're in a class and it's a class of 101, and I'll be fair, there are other factors that we look at, but this is our starting point. We adopted this from the Florida Commission on Ethics, so we are consistent with them and their body of case law. So that's why we went with that 1%, and that's where we start our analysis. It is not the only thing we look at, but that is probably the most significant thing. So in bigger cities, it's definitely a different application than the very small cities that have not very many citizens, but it still remains at 1%.
And who's going to police this?
Oh, we do. We go through and count. If it's a neighborhood, we'll count. We pull the property maps and count. Oh, you mean like police it or?
Yes.
Or say, Well, somebody has to ask us, or somebody has to think that there's something that shouldn't have occurred.
Well, that's part of your investigation.
It will be, yes. We pull property maps, we literally count out parcels and owners and ownership entities. So we put the work in to make sure everybody has a good, clear understanding as to why something was okay or not okay. I think I did one here with respect to like Airbnbs or something like that. I had to count all the Airbnbs in the city. So we'll do that to make sure that the class is large or, large enough or small enough to say, yes, you can, or no, you can't. So we'll do the work for you.
And who sets these numbers?
Well, as I said, we adopted this from the Florida Commission on Ethics. So we wanted there to be some consistency between our agency and their agency. So there'd be reliability amongst the voting members. So we have followed them. Everybody good with this? Okay. What about this one? Disclosure of voting conflicts again. A city councilman is on the board of directors at a local church, and that's a nonprofit organization. The city council is going to vote on whether or not to pave the road that the church sits on, and this one is easy. We definitely know a paved road has value. There are 25 properties on the road that may be paved. May the council member, who's a member of the board of directors, discuss or vote on this road project taking place in front of the church? Yes? No? Yes? Do we have a prohibited entity receiving a financial benefit? Road paving? What's no special entity? Who disagrees? Is there an entity here? It's number 7 on that list, right? It's an organization upon which you sit on the board of directors. So the church is the prohibited entity here. Do we have a financial benefit? Road paving has value, right? So it's a financial benefit. Is it special? It's only 25 properties, so it becomes special, right? So the answer here is no. He would not be allowed to vote on or participate in this discussion regarding the road project. So this is the important point here is when there's a voting conflict, you can't discuss it. You can't discuss ahead of time and put your opinion on the record and then walk off and say, I'm not going to vote. You can neither participate in discussions or vote on the issue, vote on the topic. All right? Okay, corrupt misuse of official position. None of us may use our official positions to corruptly secure a special benefit for any person. And here we've noted this does not have to be a financial benefit. So corruptly securing a special benefit for any person. So any special benefit what is a special benefit? If that's any benefit you or another person are not entitled to have or give, not necessarily financial, although it could be. So, and we'll go through a couple of examples here, but corruptly means done with wrongful intent and inconsistent with the proper performance of your public duties. The example I give here, just as a way of a benefit that is not financial, is if you're a supervisor and you're setting people's schedules and somebody comes to you and says, I'm really tired of working night shift, I want to work from home. And if you let me work from home, I'll babysit your kids for you this weekend and every weekend for the next 6 months. And you change their schedule, you put them on that work from home shift, and they're working during the day instead of their normal schedule that benefited the city. There's no financial benefit involved there, right? You just have somebody that's now working from home. But that behavior is corrupt because there's no proper intent. So it's done with a wrongful intent, and it's inconsistent with the proper performance of public duties. And essentially, you're getting that benefit of childcare on the weekend. So no money has changed hands, but that is a pretty big benefit for somebody to get just because they're tired of working night shift. So, parking ticket. City manager receives a parking ticket, parking citation after parking in a restricted city lot. City manager approaches the parking officer and says, hey, I'm the city manager. I have a special placard. It allows me to park anywhere in the city. I just forgot to put it up. The parking officer voids the ticket, and as it turns out, the city manager does not have a special placard that allows him to park in a city lot. Has the city manager violated the corrupt misuse?
Yes.
Yes, for sure, right? You can't do something that benefits you and not the city. The city had a right to that parking money. You don't have a parking placard. You can't do that. That's corrupt misuse. What if you did have a parking placard and you forgot to put it up? I just like to throw a wrench in things.
Ignorance is no excuse in the outer law.
I think that if I were doing this analysis,
But I have a passion.
I would say you could do that. If you had the placard and you forgot to put it up, you could probably get your ticket voided. I would say personally, I would just pay the ticket because I would not want a parking ticket with my name on it that had void written across the front. That's just me, but that's what my analysis, that's what I would do. So think of it in those terms again, as, you know, what if it showed up on the news? Do you really want that to happen? You get through 1, 2, and 3, but maybe you don't get past 4 of the 4-step process. So yes, he has improperly used his authority in a way that did not benefit the city. Okay, corrupt misuse of official position. Every employee in a city department is required to sit for an annual exam or an annual certification examination. It's paid for by the city. It's taken while they're on city time. Half the employees take the exam on Monday and half of them take it on Friday. A test taker from Monday's sitting makes copies and distributes the questions and answers to his Friday fellow test takers. Has this employee violated the corrupt misuse of official position? What's the process here? What do you guys think? I will tell you, I was doing this training somewhere and one of the people raised their hand and said, "Ma'am, that's just good teamwork." And I said, "Oh, you're gonna need some remedial training." So what do you guys think? We'll go through the analysis of corrupt misuse, right? Does this benefit the city in any way? Is he using his position? Yeah, of course you can't do this. You think about the importance of certifications. While there may be no financial component attached to this, it doesn't take too many steps to get to a financial component, really. The financial component could be in a lawsuit. It could be in somebody keeping their job. It could be, there's a million ways this turns financial. So yes, the employee, even though it doesn't have to be, it easily gets to financial. The employee improperly used his position to give a special benefit to his coworkers, and that was not in any way beneficial to the city. I definitely want my lifeguards to pass their annual certifications, personally. Any questions on that, anybody? All right, contractual relationships. So this is just our way of talking about second jobs. So anybody that has a job outside of their city employment. The code regulates some of those contracts that you may enter into in your private capacity because of your public employment or position. So generally, your outside employer or your outside business cannot provide any goods or services for payment to your public employer or your public institution. So while you guys all may have outside businesses, outside jobs, you just have to make sure you're not providing those to the city of Boynton Beach. However, when we take away, we give back, like any good law. So we have a lot of exceptions to this rule. So the exceptions are going to be if your outside employer is another governmental entity. So that is an exception to the outside employment. For example, well, I won't get into examples here without governmental employee entity. We all know what that is. If it's a sealed bid, low bid contract, you could bid on that as long as the sealed bid, low bid contract provisions are complied with. Emergency purchases or sole source of supply. So like if, I don't want to say the H word during the H season, but in that situation, if a tree was down on the road and you were the only excavating company that the city could get their hands on, or if you had a bunch of water or food that the city needed, you had a store somewhere, you could provide that. So under the emergency purchases or sole source of supply, that's the situation that's there, and there's no price limit on that. If the contracts or goods are valued at less than $500 per year, if you're a public employee and you meet the part-time outside employment exception and obtain a waiver, and we'll go through that, that's the most, I would say the most common time when you're gonna have to go through an analysis. And then extra duty for police and fire, that's an exception, so you don't have to worry about that if you're police and fire and you're working details. So, part-time outside employment waiver, do you need to file one? So the question we want you to ask is my potential employer a vendor of my government employer? Like I would say, this probably discloses too much about me, but my dream job was always, until about a month ago when I was at one of these trainings, I always said I'm going to get a job at Home Depot and work for a few hours on the weekend and get the discount. That was my dream. Did you guys know Home Depot doesn't give a discount? Shattered. So I heard they'd have pet insurance though, so they're back up there maybe. But anyway, Home Depot has a contract with every governmental agency in the county, but I work for Palm Beach County, so I can promise you that Home Depot has a contract with Palm Beach County. So if I want to go get a job at Home Depot, I have to go through this analysis. So what I'm going to do, if my potential part-time employer is a vendor, so the answer here is yes, then I have to figure out this conflict of interest waiver. If they are not a vendor, I can just accept that job and go forth. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to take any further steps. Since they are a vendor, I have to make sure that I do not participate in any way in awarding the contract to Home Depot. Like for me, I do nothing important when it comes to, I do nothing important, but this is important. I do nothing important with respect to contracts. I don't have anything to do with that. I don't have anything to do with anything financial, any awards, any choosing of vendors. I have nothing to do with this. For me, this is an easy answer. I can say, I don't have anything to do with the contract. I can get my part-time employment waiver. I can file it, and I can go get my job. If I do have something to do with that contract, if I do participate in that contract, the awarding of the contract, the numbers in the contract, the goods in the contract, in any way, this is an unavoidable conflict and I can't waive it. So I cannot accept that job if I have anything to do with that. The reasoning here is, what if I did have something to do with that contract and I work for some department in the county that orders light bulbs, and I order 100,000 light bulbs from Home Depot, and then I go work at Home Depot in the light bulb department, and I work on commission, or I get a raise because of that. So this is the reason we have this. Once again, it's all about transparency. We just want to make sure it doesn't look like things are going on behind the scenes. So the big question is, do you have anything to do with that contract? If you do, you're going to need more analysis, but it may be an unwaivable conflict. So get the waiver, sign it, have it signed by your supervisor, get us a copy, get a copy to your people, and then you're good to go.
Question.
Yep.
Go back a couple of slides. One more. At number 3 there says, this part-time employment will not impair or interfere with the government job.
So,
I understand that, but it says this should be determined by your supervisor, and as a councilman or commissioner, I don't have a supervisor.
you guys are in a slightly different, you're right, you don't. Your job is to show up at your council meetings, and it's gonna be probably a different analysis for you. This, we're trying to take into consideration that you can't call in sick to your city job and go work at your second job. You can't, you have to stay within parameters. I know there are a couple of cities to the north that have very limited outside employment allowances. So even if they complied with all of this, internally they were not allowed to work for certain outside agencies at certain times, within certain hours of their shift. So those are more the things that we're worried about. Yours is going to be an entirely different analysis. Some of this is going to apply only to employees. Like it would apply to me, but as an elected official, you're going to be treated a little bit differently. Okay? Just call me. I'll approve it.
Will do.
We'll see. Facts. We'll see if I approve it. Okay. Anything else on that? All right. A city employee would like to start a part-time business where she performs IT consulting work outside of work hours. She's employed full-time by the city in the IT department, and she learned everything she needed to know on the job. Every bit of her training, every bit of her knowledge came from working for the city of Boynton Beach. May she perform IT work during non-work hours when she is a city employee in the IT department? Yeah?
Hope so.
I mean, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Sure. As long as she does not what? Work for the city. She cannot provide work directly or indirectly. And when we say indirectly, we mean she can't do contract work for somebody who is providing services to the city. So even if she's working in that secondary capacity, that would be considered an indirect contract, and that still would be a violation. So you can't backdoor this. You cannot do work for the city. Obviously, she also cannot use city resources to complete the work. She also thinks she should refrain from identifying to or alluding to her position with the city, wearing her work shirt with a city logo on it, driving a city vehicle while soliciting potential clients. Is she correct about all this? Commissioner Hay, why are you laughing?
I mean, but it should be obvious that you shouldn't do something like that.
It should be, but I promise you that we had a case where the person solicited while working in a city uniform, driving a city vehicle, printed a contract on a city computer, brought that contract to a city facility while on the job, had the person sign it at the city facility with the city pen, with the city paper, collected money for his private job, all while working.
Really?
Really. So we put this in here just to be safe, just in case it's not clear enough. You cannot do these things. You have to keep your outside employment completely separate, or your outside business completely separate from your government work. It seems, for lack of a better term, like a no-brainer, but we're just not going to take any chances because it's happened. So yes, of course, she's
Probably
correct.
seen it all.
Well, yes. So yes, you can't use your official position to attract potential clients for your private business. So yes, that would violate the misuse of office section. Everybody make perfect sense? Okay. What about this? The child of a city employee solely owns a pressure cleaning business. The city employee does no work for the business and is not involved with the business in any way. May the child of the city employee enter into a contract with the city to provide pressure cleaning services under the Code of Ethics? This seems like the answer should be yes, but it's not. And I'm just going to tell you why, because we haven't gone into the definitions yet. But I will tell you that under the definitions, the business of a family or household member, so a son, is attributed to the employee. So your child's business will be considered your business with respect to contractual relationships. And it seems that's one of those things, the umbrella may seem a little far-reaching, but if you think about now, again, the smaller jurisdictions, we don't want them to just be able to hire their children and have nobody else working for the town, right? So in this situation, your child's business is going to be considered yours for purposes of the code. So the answer here is no, you may not hire that child, except for, if any of the exceptions apply, it's once again, it's fine. So if, for whatever reason, the outside employer is another government entity, sealed bid, low bid, emergency, sole source of supply, any of the exceptions are going to make that okay in this situation. Okay? All right, gift law. What is a gift? So a gift is a gift is a gift. We all know what that was. Anybody have a birthday within the last month? No? Really? 2 months? All right, what'd you get? What was your best gift?
Trip to Mexico and away from the city.
Bite your tongue. Did you declare that gift? It was from your family? Does that matter? I mean, we just said it's a gift, like, you know, is that one of the exceptions? You're lucky it is an exception, but yes. So while we tell you once again that you have to declare gifts, we tell you a very broad, we make a very broad demand and then we winnow it down. So you only have to declare certain gifts. But one of the things I will remind everybody is that under the gift law section and the code in general, there are absolute prohibitions. No kickbacks or bribes, no quid pro quo, and no tips with one single exception, which we will talk about. So when the code first came into effect, no tips was across the board, no tips. But any governmental employee who worked for a service-related industry all of a sudden could no longer accept a tip. So we had servers for golf courses or tip-related fields that all of a sudden couldn't get tips, and they didn't want to work there anymore, understandably, because tips are what brought them to a living wage. So they quickly did advisory opinion that now says that government employees in service-related jobs who were hired with the understanding that they would receive tips as a portion of their compensation, and where that is standard compensation within that occupation, then they may still receive tips. And one thing I want to remind everybody is a tip can be it has a very broad definition. We tend to think of that as we tip our servers, right? But what are we tipping that server for? Generally, what are we tipping them for? Service. Just generally, you're a great server all the time, or are you tipping them for your specific service? Your specific service, right? So you are tipping them for a job that they did on that specific date at that specific time. So remember that in the context of the code, because only in service-related industries are tips going to be okay. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Okay. So here's where we're going to get back to your croissant and your cup of coffee. We're going to make it even better. Okay, so gift law. There's a prohibition on soliciting or accepting over $100 annually in the aggregate from any vendor, any bidder or proposer, any lobbyist, or any principal or employer of a lobbyist. So that $100 only applies to these four sections of gift givers. So Mayor Pensurga, let's say that you're at that Starbucks, and somebody, a citizen, and I told you I'm from Seattle, so let's just say I see you at the Starbucks, and I say, Mayor Pensurga, I like to say Seahawks tickets, even if they're playing Miami. I have Seahawks tickets this weekend, but I can't go. Would you like those tickets? And you say to yourself, I sure as heck would like to go see the Seahawks, because who wouldn't? And so I tell you, those are really good. They're really good tickets. They're right at the 50-yard line. They're really low. They were $300 a piece. Can you accept those tickets from me?
No,
Why not?
it's over $100.
Am I a vendor?
No,
Am I a bidder? Am I a lobbyist? I'm just me, Rhonda Geiger. Am I a principal or employer? $600 worth of tickets. Could you accept those?
I mean, in theory, but I wouldn't do it still.
Yeah, okay, so that's fair. I get that, and I appreciate that. But under the code, you really want to go to this game? You really want to see the Seahawks? Geno Smith is looking good.
If you're not any of those people, then I suppose yes.
Yeah, you could, right? What do you have to do if you accept those?
Report.
Report it, exactly, because transparency, right? That's fair too. As long as you report them, you can, because people are definitely going to pay double for Seahawks tickets, without a doubt. No question. What's funny about that?
We'll let that slide.
Whatever. Okay, so you see here where we get this $100, people get that $100 in their head and they think, I can't accept that. But really, if you really could, you would have to declare it. And it's not just you, that applies to me, that applies to every employee, that applies to anybody, is that there is shockingly, no upper limit on the amount of gift that you can accept, as long as it's not from this prohibited section. You simply have to declare that once you accept that gift. Make perfect sense? Okay.
Can I ask you about the lobbyist?
Sure.
Do they have to be a registered lobbyist?
Yeah. They have to be engaging in lobbyist-related activities.
So anyone that's engaging in that type of activity, regardless of the status?
Yeah, typically they should be registered lobbyists, but we do have engaged in lobbyist activities and a definition of that. So I don't think that just not registering is going to get past that, but it's something that I wouldn't want to put a blanket on. Typically, they're going to be registered, is what I'll say.
Okay.
And again, it's lobbying your public employer. So if they're not lobbying Boynton Beach, they could be a lobbyist, but if they're not lobbying Boynton Beach, then it's not going to qualify. All right? Okay. So here's a different section. There's a prohibition on soliciting any gift from, so this is not soliciting or accepting, this is soliciting a gift from any vendor, any bidder, any lobbyist, or anybody who employs a lobbyist. Why do you think this is? Anybody have any ideas? We don't want you saying, hey, my kid would really love to go to the Seahawks game this weekend, and any chance you could get me a couple of tickets? And then they feel like they have to do that, or they're not going to get their bid, or they're not going to get their, you're not going to vote on their issue. on the side that they want you to vote. So no soliciting, no matter who it's for in this section. Can't be for your personal benefit or the personal benefit of another official, employee, relative, or household member. Okay? And then state reporters, this is you guys, of course, not me, not some of the people in here, but you guys. So while the prohibition against taking gifts from certain individuals or entities applies to state reporting officials and employees, the reporting requirements for state reporters are governed by state law. So if state law requires a gift to be reported on a state of Florida quarterly gift form, you have to do that, and you also have to send a copy to us within 10 days of filing that form. Yes? Okay. That's one thing it's great when gift forms get filed, but they have to also be filed with us. That's a kind of a common oversight. And we do go through the gift forms and make sure, the nice thing about being a state reporter is if you have accidentally accepted a gift from somebody who is a bidder, a vendor, a lobbyist, or employs a lobbyist, the cure period's 90 days, so we're gonna catch it for you. So just make sure you get us those forms on time. We go through those with a pretty close eye.
Rhonda, can I ask you, and I might be getting ahead of, and if I am, just let me know.
Yeah.
What about events and they comp your tickets to events or there's something like that?
So
And I see half the county there.
Yeah,
so
you're
it's-
not getting ahead of, one of the things that we have started doing, Palm Beach County, I don't know if the city of Boynton Beach does it, but what Palm Beach County has started doing is they write a certain number of tickets into the contract. So when the people get tickets, they're coming from their employer, they're not coming from the vendor.
You mean the county gets them from some organization as part of some contract?
Exactly, so it's part of the contract, it's part of the exchange of services, it's part of the handshake. And so when an employee goes to that, it doesn't come from the vendor, it comes from their employer.
Got
So
it.
it may still be a reportable gift, but it's not a prohibited gift.
Got it.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
I think he's referring to, let's say, there was a group, the American Red Cross, invites you to an event and they comp your tickets. In that situation, where
Are
it's
they-
not a group
Are they a
of the
vendor?
city.
No, they're not a vendor. Let's just say some nonprofit
Yeah, if they're not a vendor,
doing good
then,
things in the city.
yeah, if they're not a vendor, there's very specific valuation requirements too, and it's a pretty easy thing to follow. Face value of the ticket. If there's no face value, then especially if it's nonprofit, we can back out some costs. And there's a formula. But if it's not a vendor bidder, if it's not a prohibited entity, then you just have to see if it's over $100 and declare it.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Sure. Otherwise, if it is over $100 and they are a vendor, it's prohibited, so you can't accept it. So anything over $100 annually in the aggregate from the prohibited for, you couldn't accept it. Or, well, we'll talk about it. But,
Okay.
there's a few little things. So state reporting individuals, here's your form. So as we said, quarterly reporting for you all on the form. So here, reporting requirements, non-state reporters, local reporters. So this is us. The non-state reporters in the room, essentially the same requirements, but as we said, there's any gifts valued, you guys have to comply with certain components of the state statute, whereas we only comply with the Palm Beach County Code of Ethics. So here, any gifts valued in excess of $100 per year given by anyone to a public employee must be reported on an annual basis to the Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics, unless it's one of the exceptions to gift law, because City Manager Duggar didn't report his trip to New Mexico, right? So we hope that was because there was it fit one of the exceptions, which we will talk about. The other thing to remember here is this is annually, if it's over 100, it's reportable. If it's under 100, it's not reportable. As far as non-state reporters, we only report one time per year. So when you think of that 90-day cure period, if you're reporting 11 months after you accepted the gift and it was a prohibited entity or it was something you shouldn't have accepted, the cure period's passed. So feel free, anybody who's a non-state reporter, to file your form whenever you accept the gift. That will get you within that cure period. That will get you within that window. So here's exceptions. Gifts from, thank goodness, gifts from relatives or members of your household. Can you imagine all the gift forms we would get? Personal gifts, if given by a personal friend, coworker, and the motivation of that gift is friendship or a work relationship, and it's not to get to work from home. If it's just because you guys have an amiable or amicable relationship, then that's fine. Awards for civic or professional achievement, advertising materials, even if from vendors, gifts solicited on behalf of your public employer used for a public purpose. Any inheritance, regardless of who it is from, is not reportable. Lawful political contributions are not reportable. The accepting of those, obviously. Registration fees and other costs for educational conferences where the attendance is for governmental purposes and is related to your duties and responsibilities within your job. So here's our form. It's slightly different, us non-state reporters. If you don't accept a gift, you don't have to file a form. We don't want blank forms, but you're welcome to file more than one.
So that last bit,
Yep.
I just make sure I understood that very last, one more, the last on the list. For educational conferences,
They're not considered gifts. Even if Boynton Beach is sending you somewhere to travel, you don't have to report that as a gift,
okay,
as long as it's for work-related purposes.
yeah.
If you're going to New Mexico with your family and the city of Boynton Beach pays for it, that may be a different scenario.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, thanks.
Not that the city of Boynton Beach did. I'm not making that assertion. Be careful here of regifting. So Mayor Pensurga, let's just say that you did accept those Seahawks tickets. And after the fact, you said to yourself, I have a feeling Rhonda Geiger has an outside business and she's a vendor of the city. Now what do I do? And then you say, well, I'm just going to give them to Vice Mayor Kelly.
She's not a Seahawks fan.
How dare you?
My mother is, don't worry. It's still in the family.
Okay, but let's say she wanted to go. She wanted to take, her BFF to the Seahawks game. I mean, why wouldn't you? And you say to yourself, I want to get these off my hands. Have you fixed it by giving them to her?
I'm going to say no.
No, you are right, you have not, because all you've now done is made her accept a prohibited gift as well. So we definitely don't want you just passing these on and washing your hands of it. You've essentially just made the paper trail longer instead of
And put her in a
eradicated it.
position
And
where-
you, yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So the message here is always know who is giving you the gift. It's equally as important to know who is giving it to you as it is to know how much that gift is worth. And arguably even more important to know that. So once you identify the giver of the gift, that is going to set the parameters for you right away on whether or not you can accept it, whether or not you have to worry about the cost, whether or not you don't have to worry about the cost. Knowing the identity of the giver is the big message here. Know who is the original giver of that gift. Not Mayor Pensurga. You not figure out where he got those tickets. Did you get those from somewhere? Somebody give you these? Okay, city library employee receives a $25 gift card from a member of the public after helping that person locate certain books in the library for research. May that employee accept the gift? What did I tell you that the code thinks of very broadly? What do you guys think? Anybody have any guesses here? No tips. Does this seem like a tip when you really look at it? Is this compensation or a reward for a job well done, just like a server, right? It is. So the answer here is no. She may not accept that gift. And like in this scenario, I usually say, so the employee or the citizen gets there and there's a nice card written to the librarian. Thank you so much for all of your help with my research project. You did a great job. And inside that thank you card is a $25 gift card. You look at that, you get to see the $25 gift card, and you see the reason for it, and that's a hard stop right there. You cannot accept that. I do like to say that the same place where the guy said, same guy, not just same place, where the guy said, ma'am, that's just good teamwork, he said, couldn't we just throw away the card? I said, again, we're gonna need some remedial training here. So you could.
Along those lines, let me ask a question. What do you do when it's an anonymous gift? Because sometimes people drop off
Yeah.
food
Yeah.
and other items to the city, and then you're like, what do we do
So
with
you
this?
have an anonymous donor.
Correct.
And they're dropping off items to the city. So let's, for purposes of this scenario, let's just say it's a Okay, a dozen cupcakes. We're gonna put a value on those, we're gonna do our best. Are they homemade cupcakes? Did they come from Dunkin' Donuts? So we're gonna put a value on those, first and foremost. And then I'm gonna say to you, are you gonna eat all dozen of those cupcakes?
No, I'm gonna share them with all my friends.
You're gonna share them. So let's just say even if they're $5 a cupcake, you're not gonna get to the $100 mark. The code is very clear, even there, even if it does come from a lobbyist, a vendor, a principal, bidder or proposer, even if it does come from one of those people, you're not to the $100 threshold, and you're sharing those, so then you get to, you proportion that out. So you may have $5 worth of cupcakes. If you eat a cupcake from this same person every single day for the entire year, you're gonna get to that $100 because it's annually in the aggregate. But if it's a random cupcake, there's no problem at all.
Okay, let me ask another question.
Okay.
What if it's a business that just opened up in the city and they're down the street from City Hall and they pass out free food because they want you to start attending their business? Is that a problem?
Well, it might be a quid pro quo, so would you want to talk about that just a little bit? I think we talked about this in the vendor, when I did the training with the people that dealt specifically with vendors. So you just have to make sure there's no quid pro quo. If they want you simply to taste their food and they're not a vendor yet, then there's no prohibition if they're just getting the word out. If they're specifically targeting you because they want to get a contract and they're giving you free food to get that contract and not wanting you to taste their food to see how delicious it is to get the contract, it can be a kind of a comprehensive analysis. So it's really going to I'm going to really focus on, if I were looking at that, on the intent of the restaurant and then the response from the employee. So there's no quid pro quos, as I said. So it just depends on the reasoning behind it. And if it works, right? If it works on the employee. So if the employee takes all the free food and then gives them a contract, that was probably a quid pro quo, which would be, there's no way to get around that as a prohibited gift. All right? So the answer here is no, the public employee cannot accept that gift for completing a task that their public employer employs them to do. So unless it meets the one exception, which in this situation, I don't think librarians generally get tips. But let's just twist this. Let's say it's a frequent flyer to the library who just uses the librarian's help a lot, is in and out on a regular basis, and at the end of the year, that citizen drops off a $50 gift card and says, "Thank you so much for being a great librarian." What about that? See, I think that's okay. It's not for a specific act, right? It's just for being a great librarian. I mean, what part of you might not want to accept it, right? You might say to yourself, I'm going to put this in the city kitty, right? But could you accept that if under the code? Let's just say under the code. Yeah, the answer is yes. I mean, you could. There's no prohibition against this. So this is just one of those things we really want you to go through the analysis again. And this may not pass number 4. This may not pass the number 4 of the 4-step process. But it also, maybe it is. There's no technical prohibition. Many places, most places, in fact, will say we have a policy and we just put it in a joint thing, and then we use it at the end of the year for a city party or something like that. And that's a really easy way to deal with that type of a thing. Okay, any questions on that? All right, what about this? City employees attending a conference on behalf of the city. The attendance at the conference and the hotel stay was approved by the city and paid for by the city. Does this need to be reported? Mayor Pensurga? We already answered this, right? No, it doesn't. As long as it's a city function, no, definitely not. Nobody would ever go to a conference if you had to report it as a gift. So this is one of the exceptions. So let's say you inadvertently accepted a gift valued at greater than $100 from a prohibited source, and Vice Mayor Kelly won't take those Seahawks tickets from you. So, and Mayor Pensurga, now you realize that I am a vendor with the city, and you don't want those tickets. You haven't gone to the game yet. What do? Give them back. Anything else? Any other options? You could pay back everything other than $100 because you can accept up to $100 from a vendor or lobbyist. So you can give them back. You can pay back the money. which is what I was saying about the 90 days on state reporters. So if you did inadvertently accept those tickets, but then you reported them because you didn't think there was anything wrong with it, and for transparency, you were reporting them, we would say, hey, you can't do that, Rhonda Geiger's a vendor. And at that point, you'd just pay back $500 and you wouldn't have a gift violation. So that is one of the benefits of being a 90-day reporter, because 90 days is the cure period for this. Okay? All right, charitable solicitations. So I asked this question, but I'm just going to answer it. There was a time in the code where they were prohibited, but now charitable solicitations have an exception because the charities are the ones that were being penalized by this, by not being able to collect on their behalf. So now an employer official may solicit donations from a vendor or lobbyist of their public organization, or their public employer, on behalf of a nonprofit charitable institution, as long as they file a charitable solicitation log and they don't solicit anybody who is trying to become a vendor. So you still don't want those people feeling obliged to donate so they get a contract. We want to make sure that, in the efforts of, in the interest of transparency, that we do not solicit from anybody with a current bid or proposal still outstanding.
Mayor, I have a question real quick.
Sure. Is that you? Yeah, Commissioner, go ahead.
Yeah. Rhonda, thank you so much
Sure.
for being here. And I agree with you. Peggy Adams is a great organization. they do a lot of good stuff, and it's awesome to see them grow. Quick question. So, for example, what if there was a collaborative event like Habitat for Humanity doing a build for someone, right? That they partner with the city, but they provide T-shirts or like a swag bag. Technically, they're a vendor of the city. So if that amount is greater than, I guess, $100, is that a violation because we're doing a collaborative event? Or where it's kind of a gray area, it seems like.
Well,
So is there a way?
Yeah, I mean, I can elaborate to the extent that I can without knowing what their capacity as a vendor, what is their capacity as a vendor, what are the parameters of this. As I said, sometimes things like that are written into a contract, so things actually come from the city instead of from the agency. But I highly suspect that Habitat for Humanity is not giving away over $100 worth of stuff. So you can still accept up to $100 from somebody who is a vendor. Them being a nonprofit doesn't make them not a vendor.
Okay.
So we'd have to go through, I would just have to go through the analysis with the items or the gifts or those, and look at the nature of their relationship with the city.
Okay, perfect. And then just to clarify, I think you mentioned this earlier. If there's like a swag bag that's provided from the CRA or the city, that's part of our duty, right? That is not a violation, I'm assuming?
Who was it provided from? Who gave it to you?
Let's say the city or the CRA.
The redevelopment or Community Redevelopment Association, which is part of the city.
city. So accepting a gift from your employer is fine, but that doesn't mean that it's not reportable. So if it was, a diamond ring, you probably have to report it, unless it was a really bad diamond ring.
I wish I was getting diamond rings.
So you're still going to want to look at the $100 threshold.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Got it. So even if it is from within the city or the Boynton Beach CRA,
Yeah.
it is reportable?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that clarification.
Sure. Okay, everybody good on the charitable solicitations? Okay, we're quickly going to cover these other issues, and I'll let you guys get on with your city business. We're going to talk just briefly about travel expenses from a vendor, disclosure of inside information, nepotism, and then honesty in applications. These are 4 other kind of little-known sections of the code. So as, excuse me, per the norm, we take away and then we'll give it right back. So officials and employees are prohibited from accepting travel expenses directly or indirectly from any contractor, vendor, service provider, bidder, or proposer of their public employer or public entity, except if it's waived by your governing body or if the expenses are reimbursed or paid by another governmental entity or an organization with which your employer has a relationship. So what I would say here is if your police department is buying all new speed measuring devices, and whoever's producing those speed measuring devices wants to fly some people out and train them to calibrate and run and repair those speed measuring devices. Typically, when you look at the prohibitions, it says, no, you can't do that. But who would we prefer is paying the cost of all that travel? Would we prefer you guys paid that, or would we prefer the vendor did? So all you have to do here is, obviously we would prefer the vendor, I'll answer the question, but we would prefer that the vendor did that. So just get that proved in advance. It just has to be done in advance by the governing body, and then it's fine. So it's no problem as long as it doesn't come back after the fact. Okay, and then disclosure of inside information. There's a prohibition against using information.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
This
yeah,
came
back.
up. Can you go back to the
Sure.
last slide? So we had an issue come up with regard to, we are a member of the League of Cities, and they host quarterly or monthly luncheons. Is it appropriate for the city to host a luncheon, it's now our term, for the League of Cities with public dollars, if we are a member of that?
I don't know that I can answer with respect to the appropriateness of it. I mean, if
Okay,
you're a
well,
member.
there's no ethical
I
violation.
don't see an ethical violation.
Okay,
just
I
with
just
those
wanted to make
limited
sure.
facts.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I mean, it seems like it's just it's just your turn.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, the municipalities all take turns hosting that lunch, and Boynton Beach
And it's work-related,
hosts
right?
November.
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, so that's the other thing to remember is when things are work-related, when you are working, it's not a gift. I mean, it's a slightly different parameter. It's not an event or something outside of that is work-related. That is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so prohibition against using information that is gained through your public employment or official position for your personal benefit or the personal benefit of any entity, if that information is not yet available to the general public. So you can't use information that other people don't know for your personal gain, just to simplify. So let's look at the pernicious planner. A staff member has drafted several options for the extension of a major road, and she eventually realizes that the commission, while they haven't announced it yet, they have informally selected an option, but that information is not yet available to the general public. May she purchase that land? May she tell her little sister to purchase that land? May she tell her little sister's best friend's cousin to purchase that land? She may not tell, you guys are right, she may not tell anybody. You cannot disclose that. We cannot use our employment or positions as elected officials for personal gain, period. We can't do that. So the answer is no.
Rhonda, could I ask, if it is then discussed in a public meeting, would that then no longer be
I mean,
private information?
it doesn't violate the disclosure of inside information, whether or not it's prudent, but it doesn't violate this section once it's public information.
Okay. And I'm not saying it's prudent either.
I agree, yes, but I see, yes, that, as long as it's public information. You just can't use information that's not yet available to other people.
Okay.
And Rhonda, if the council has put a time limit, say 3 years, if I know a piece of land and we have said that you can't move on that at least for whatever the time limit is, at that point, would I be violating?
Is it public information? I mean, the precursor here is whether or not the information is
That's
available.
just public information. It was in a commission meeting.
Yeah, again, it doesn't violate, whether or not it's prudent, I couldn't speak to that, but it doesn't violate the disclosure of inside information. Okay? All right, nepotism. Employees and officials who are authorized to appoint, employ, promote, or advance anyone are prohibited from doing so, as well as prohibited from advocating for any of those if that person is a close family relative, spouse, or domestic partner. And again, the definition of family relative, close family relative is defined. So just know that this does come up from time to time. Appoint, employ, promote, or advance, you cannot do so if that person is your family member. And that doesn't mean they can't work in the same city, doesn't mean they can't even work in the same department. It just means that you can't advocate for any of those four things or do any of those four things. except for with certain advisory boards, but this doesn't apply here because you guys are not under 35,000. All right, honesty in applications. Any person seeking to become an official or employee or seeking a promotion with their public employer or seeking a contract with the county or municipal government is prohibited from lying or making any false statement on their application, submitting a false document, or knowingly withholding information about wrongdoing in connection with employment. So I think the vetting process on new employees is pretty great, but I can't speak to that in general. This goes the same if you're trying to get a promotion. Don't embellish your credentials. If you're trying to get a contract, don't say you've done things you haven't done. You are obligated to comply with the code of ethics when you are going through this process. So just this honesty in applications does come up. So just be aware. And then finally, the enforcement component. I know everybody was been wondering about this. We are a civil code enforcement board. So there's no ethics jail, but we do have the ability to impose sanctions. We can issue a letter of instruction or a letter of reprimand, and we do that quite frequently. We can ask for a fine if there's recidivist behavior or something's fairly egregious, and we can ask for restitution if it's necessary. What I will say is it feels like a lot of the code violations are not intentional anymore. People are really trying. So, and hopefully this whole step with us trying to be a proactive agency is why we're seeing people are really making good efforts. So many of these end up with a letter of instruction in an agreed way where we say, hey, this happened, just don't do it again. But that said, it's not like we're overlooking things. We're reminding people that we're here and that we're keeping an eye on everything. Additionally, if there is criminal conduct associated with whatever we run across, violations can and will be reported to the state attorney's office and have been and may be charged as a crime. And those do, in fact, they will carry criminal penalties if that person is convicted. So the one thing I do want to remind everybody is that even if you get by us, even if the state attorney declines, you can still be punished by your agency. There can still be repercussions from your individual agency. So don't think that just because you didn't violate the code of ethics or that there wasn't a criminal violation, that there can't still be action from your employer. And the one thing I do want to say when we talk about enforcement, and Mayor Pensurga, I heard you talking about essentially civility when you opened up the meeting tonight. We have a very specific code of ethics that we can enforce, and it is not, we don't enforce civility. That is not part of what we can enforce. I've covered the major components of this. So really, we want people to look at whether or not a prohibited entity is receiving some sort of special financial benefit. Those are the big ones, corrupt misuse, things along those lines. But things that you people may think that they don't like to see doesn't automatically make it an ethics violation. And we can think somebody's being unethical, and they may very well be unethical, but unless they violate the code, there's really not much we can do about that. So if you do reach out to us, we do ask that you read through the code and help us identify which behavior you believe is a violation of which component of the code. So I will say that we do have enforcement capacity, but it is limited to the law. We can't go outside the law. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody here? City Manager Duggar.
Thanks, Rhonda. I got a question.
Okay, of course you do. What do we call these? Green gorillas?
Yes, not really. It's actually just an update. I read that something passed in the state where you guys are no longer going to be accepting anonymous complaints after October 1st. Is that accurate or?
In effect now.
Oh, it isn't that? It was July 1?
That was June something, actually.
June?
Oh, June, I think you're right. It was like July, yeah, July. It was June, no, it was June. I think it was June. It went into effect when it got passed, which was like June 20-something. Yeah. So we can't file anonymous complaints. We can accept information in any capacity that it comes through. What used to happen, I think you must have stepped out because we talked about this already. But what used to happen is we would get information, we would conduct a preliminary inquiry. If that looked like it was going to lead to an ethics violation, we would file a self-initiated complaint. We can no longer file those self-initiated complaints. We can still conduct the investigation. So for example, if we got one that was related to something at the city of Boynton Beach, we could still conduct that preliminary inquiry, say to ourselves, it looks like there's an ethics violation here, and we could reach out to the agency and say, here's the information that we have gathered. If you want to file a complaint based on this, go forth. We can't do it anymore. So that's the situation that we're in now. That's it? That wasn't a green gorilla, you're right. All right.
All right, anything else from my colleagues?
Well, yes, I do have a few
Okay.
items. I don't know if you're the right source, but I'll ask anyway. As far as, I guess a workshop and the commission meeting are under the same rules, and is that correct? Like, this is a workshop.
I don't have
The same
anything to
rules
do.
apply?
Yeah, I don't have anything to do with that. You're talking more, I would say, like sunshine law and things like that. That's out of
No.
my,
Not necessarily. Where I'm going with this is that I think we need clarification on notes that are written down on any piece of paper is public record, or do you deal with any of that type of?
yeah, we don't deal with public records. I mean, to the extent that we provide them, we do, but we don't have any enforcement capacity with respect to public
Do you
records.
deal with conversations that are going on the dais between just two individuals and not the rest of the dais? You don't deal with that either?
Unless it violated the code in some way, no, it would not fall under
Which code, the city code or
the code of
county?
ethics. Code of ethics.
Let him finish.
That is about,
No, only if it did. I can't think of a situation that it would be unless there was some special financial benefit attached to it, but just a discussion, no, I can't see how that would violate the code of ethics.
Council wanted to chime in. Did you want to say something?
Commissioner Hay, if you have, and I know you mentioned this before, my office can put together a general training with regard, and whether you guys want to do another workshop training, or you just want me to put together a memo relating to sunshine law and public records, that's certainly something that, my office would handle and be happy to answer any questions, either whether that's to you specifically or the entire board, however you see fit. We really can't talk about that right now because it's not on the special meeting, but we can talk about it afterwards, you and I, and you tell me whatever you want, and I will make it happen.
I hear what you're saying.
Okay, thank
But
you.
as far as what I'm talking about is how we behave up here on this dais, okay? And I've been at this for a couple of mango seasons. And I feel that there have been, according to the training that I had previous, unless it's been changed, conversation that goes on up here between two commissioners, staff and commissioners or whomever. And the rest of us don't know what that conversation was all about. We have a right to know when we're up here sitting on this dais, what's going on, what's being said. Do you have that understanding?
Unfortunately, I'd like to really discuss this with you. And I'm not trying to not answer the question. I'd really like to answer the question. My only concern is that right now, with regard to a special meeting, we have to really only talk about what is on the agenda. But we can talk about it all you want on August 6th, or in person, or however you would like for that to happen.
I'll do that.
Okay.
But when we add things to the agenda, those things are not,
That's at a regular public agenda meeting, but this is a special workshop, so the
that-
rules
that- You answered the question right
are
there.
slightly different.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Commissioner Hay? Any other questions for me?
Oh, thank you, Rhonda.
Anybody else?
All right, let me, any last call from my colleagues? Seeing nothing else, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you, I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you.
All right, we're going to continue on with the meeting. The next item on the agenda here, it says, discussion regarding changing the date of the second commission meeting in September. That meeting is scheduled already for September 17th. However, it falls in the same week as the IEDC conference. That's the International Economic Development Council Conference. And so we will need to reschedule. And so let me turn to my colleagues. If there are dates that they're comfortable with. Staff, did you have a recommendation? I'm assuming that the following Tuesday, but was there any
My
recommendations or requests?
recommendation is that we do it on the 16th. Well, no, that's.
It's still during the conference week.
Yeah, it's like the travel day or something.
Mayor?
Yes.
Real quick, when I
yes.
spoke to the interim finance director, he mentioned to me that the meeting would still need to fall within that week, that the following week would be too late.
Right.
We'd miss the deadlines.
budget.
So it needs to fall in the week of the 16th,
The week of the 16th,
the week before.
It can be the week before.
could be the week before. Let's do the week before, since we can't go past that week and we'll be gone for that week. So
Right.
obviously it has to be the week before.
Talking about the 9th?
The week of the 9th, and we have the CRA meeting on the 10th. So
That's fine with me.
my question here is the timing of other things that will then trickle down effect, but that's okay, but staff will figure it out. What about the Thursday?
The 12th?
Yep, the 12th. Does that work for everybody? And let me check my calendar as well. In the meantime, let me know if it does or does not work, but right now, 12 seems, this is
Works.
September 12th.
It works for me.
Fine with me.
All right, so I've heard
Turkin,
from
Turkin.
two. What about Commissioner Turkin online and Commissioner Cruz? Is that good for everybody?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, all right. Commissioner
Mayor.
Turkin,
Yes, sir.
were you good on the 12th?
Yes.
Excellent. All
Yes,
right.
September 12th, right?
All right, thank you so much. Yes, September 12th, that is a Thursday. We have consensus on that date. Thank you so much. We're now going to move on to the next item. This is a discussion of request to schedule a shade meeting, and pursuant to, lots of codes here, pursuant to 286.0118 Florida statutes, in the matter of the Boynton Beach Little League doing business as East Boynton Beach Little League, a Florida nonprofit. City Attorney, let me turn to you for this item and anything
Correct.
additional.
We are currently in litigation with East Boynton Beach Little League, and Section 286.0118 is very specific when the city attorney needs direction as to litigation strategy or with regard to with regard to settlement or with regard to reducing litigation expenditures. In this particular case, I need to discuss with the commissioners in a closed-door meeting, having those discussions with regard to the litigation expenditures. So I am
And-
requesting a shade
All
meeting.
right, thank you. And Council, did you have a recommended date so we can check?
I do. I would prefer to do it August 6th or as soon as possible.
Look.
Are you wanting to do it before the commission meeting?
Yes, and I believe we could do it. It should take no more than an hour. And so, I mean, we can either begin the meeting and then we announce our shade meeting and we go and have our shade meeting and then come back, whether we wanted to start the meeting a little earlier to accommodate your schedules, but I know you all work, so whatever is best for the commission.
Yeah, I just want to make sure my colleagues are not rushing down the highway to get here. I'm comfortable either way, but for practical considerations, it might be better if we just stuck to the 6 o'clock time, and then we begin the meeting here, and then we move out to our closed-door session. If the rest of you are willing to come earlier, I'm good with that as well. Vice Mayor?
I know I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I know the agenda for August 6th was posted today. How heavy is that agenda where if we started a shade meeting at 6, is it a heavy meeting where we're gonna have an issue?
Given the substance of what we have to discuss in the shade meeting, I don't foresee it going anywhere near an hour. But I will say the agenda is fairly normal, nothing heavy or contentious. So we could definitely make that happen.
I mean, we could start a half hour earlier if that helps, and if other of the members can do that. But otherwise, I'm fine with starting at 6. It's
Okay.
kind of the will of the board.
Yeah, thank you for that. Let's turn to our colleagues. Commissioner Turkin, Commissioner Cruz, Commissioner Hay. Vice Mayor just suggested perhaps starting at 5:30, but again, it just depends on you guys who have drive time that we need to factor in. Commissioner Turkin, you want to
I'm
begin?
okay with, yeah, I'm okay with 5:30. I'm okay with 6. I can be flexible. So whatever, the consensus is, yeah.
Okay,
Whatever's easier for everyone else.
all right. Commissioner?
August 1st, 5:30?
August 6th.
August 6th.
August 6th, which is, okay, 5:30 on August 6th. I'm good.
Good. And Commissioner Cruz, did you have a preference either way?
I would like to get here by 5:30, but I don't want to take the chance of, because the traffic from West Palm is really heavy at that time. So I would feel comfortable with doing 6 o'clock.
Okay. There was no strong feelings for either or, so let's proceed with 6 o'clock. Like I said, I don't want anyone rushing down the highway.
Yeah, we'll just, now that we got consensus, we'll republish the agenda tomorrow.
All right?
Thank you.
All right, we'll circle back to that. Thank you so much. The next item here is 3C. It says discussion regarding, I'm sorry, Council, was that the end? I just want to make sure we didn't miss anything.
Yes, I'm sorry, we were just
Okay, just
discussing
making
an
sure, that's
administration.
all right.
I didn't realize I was still on. I
Just
apologize.
making sure I didn't miss anything. 3C, discussion regarding process for presenting proposed ordinance to the City Commission. Staff is looking for direction on what the process should be when staff presents proposed ordinances for consideration. I was not here last meeting. I know you all had briefly discussed this, so whoever brought this up,
We didn't necessarily discuss ordinances at the last meeting,
oh,
but
okay.
my office needs some direction from the commission because my office has identified 18 ordinances that are currently either unconstitutional or departments have asked us to change because it no longer works for the department, or the state has preempted the statute and therefore it needs to be repealed. And also with regard to some ordinances that are just, maybe a resolution has been passed and it really shouldn't be a resolution, it should be an ordinance. So obviously my job, right, is to clean those things up for the city. And then you guys, you vote on it. But I obviously am not trying to step on anyone's toes with regard to what is being brought forward. So I just want some clear discussion, so that it doesn't look like I'm stepping on your toes, because I'm certainly not trying to do that. But at the same time, there are certain things, like, for example, I do know there's 2 ordinances right now that are absolutely unconstitutional that need to be repealed. But for example, in that situation, typically what would happen is I would propose repealing the ordinance and substituting it with a constitutionally valid ordinance. However, I could see where the commission may say, no, we just don't want an ordinance altogether. So I just need direction going forward on how you want me as your city attorney to do those things.
All right, thank you, Council. Let me just kick off the conversation, and of course, I'll turn to all my colleagues for input. I think there's a simple solution here, and I had this conversation earlier with the city attorney. I know that we've all received, or at least I think we've all received emails about the proposed, what are we calling it? The pre-agenda workshop, is that what we're calling it?
An agenda workshop.
Agenda workshop, right? So this is like the workshop prior to a city commission meeting. I think if staff wants to propose something and explain it to us, what the rationale is, I think just do it then. And then, so there's input from every member of the commission and say, okay, yes, we're generally, generally in favor of this, proceed or don't proceed, or give input in some way to modify it. So that would occur prior to the actual city commission meeting. So that's my recommendation. However, again, this was brought up, or this was touched on. So let's turn to my colleagues if you have thoughts, suggestions of how we could proceed forward, but that's my suggestion.
Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to completely agree with you. I think that is the perfect opportunity. It allows staff to present something very transparent with all of us. You know, we can get consensus. And I think that's the most effective way for the taxpayers and the residents, especially when a lot of these things can be time bound or unconstitutional and put the city at risk and liability, which is, you know, as a fiduciary, you know, elected, it's our responsibility to protect. So I definitely don't want to hold off on anything that could put the city liable. So yeah, I'm definitely in favor of what you're proposing.
And for clarity, for my colleagues as well, and for the public, so if our meetings are on Tuesday, our official city commission meetings are Tuesday, the agenda, I would call that the draft agenda, and I want to clarify that these agendas that you see online, they are produced by staff and only by staff. They are produced about 1 week before, the previous Tuesday. And the proposal that's been made by staff is to have an agenda workshop on a Thursday. So this is the Thursday prior to the meeting. So they publish their proposed draft. We have a workshop on Thursday to get our input. And then if there are changes, we can republish on Friday, for example. And so this way the public gets an updated version, and these workshops are public. It will be recorded, so the public is still able to see everything that's happening. So I just wanted to throw that out there so there's clarification on timeline. And again, it's just a proposal, but let's hear from everybody else. Anybody else want to chime in? You're okay with generally?
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Yeah, Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Now, you know, when we made the decision to bring in in-house city attorney, that was something that you and I had spoken about, and I know that was something that was very clear, was that we really wanted that city attorney to review all of those documents and make sure that we're doing everything that we can to protect the city, protect our residents. And so I thank you and your staff for really taking the time to review all of the ordinances and all of the codes and everything that we have, and bring recommendations. And sometimes we don't have the luxury of having time on our side. And just like Commissioner Turkin said, you know, we don't want to continue to have the city at risk because we're waiting. And so, you know, I just want to, you know, thank you for taking charge of that and reviewing those, and then coming to us with recommendations. You know, we are here as part-time, and you are the professional, you are the attorney that has had many years of experience in government work, and I know that you are looking out for the best interests of the city and the residents. And so I thank you for doing that, and I agree that I think that probably in that workshop setting, ones that are obviously more time sensitive should come to us sooner rather than later. But you know, as we move forward, you know, cleaning up these as necessary, so that we're doing everything that we can. So I'm fine with doing it in the workshop setting. I would just encourage you to, you know, on ones that are time sensitive and that we really need to jump on, that we jump on them and not maybe wait for the workshop, although we're doing them on a regular basis, so hopefully we won't run into that issue. But you know, if something has to be added to a meeting, then, you know, I don't want to just delay it just for the sake of delaying it. That's what your job is to protect us and protect the residents. And so I trust that if you're bringing something to us, you're doing it because it's in our best interest. So those are my comments on that. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Cruz, any additional thoughts?
I do agree. It would be good to have a section where we specify like staff requests for consensus for, you know, from the board or whatever, just so that we're aware and it's in a separate area, that it's not the general agenda, so that we can discuss and decide if we do want to move forward with consensus, to have that discussion or not. That's it.
All right, thank you. I'm not entirely sure if I understood what you meant, but I think I partially understood what you meant. I will share with you, Commissioner, I had a conversation earlier with one of our attorneys, and I said, it's really important for me, and so when the public sees that draft agenda, they understand that this is a proposed, it's a draft. It is not something I'm putting forward or you're putting forward, unless it actually is. And the reason why I say that is that there have been multiple instances where the public thinks I'm doing it, when in reality, I do not make the agenda. I don't even have access to the computer program that allows staff to do that. So I just want to make sure that there's clarity on that versus what staff proposed versus what is commission initiated. But I think there's just an easy fix for that. I mean, I've seen in other municipalities or other entities, they will say something like, I don't know the exact words, but initiated by this department, initiated by so-and-so. So there's clarity on that. Anyways, I think we're on the same page. Well, thank you so much, everyone. The only thing I would add also is that please keep in mind that this process, as we try this out, we may have to refine and make adjustments. I'm already thinking about the timeline, and I hope that's enough time, but we may discover that we may need more time. But we'll take it one step at a time. All right? Anything
Mayor, I
else?
have one more question.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
So for this agenda workshop, this would be essentially a precursor of the agenda with the proposed ordinances or items that a certain department would want to bring forward, correct?
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing?
It's a draft,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, so essentially like an additional agenda review. I just want to make sure that, if needed, I would still have that time to have a one-on-one agenda review with staff if I need it.
Yeah.
Personally, I think this is great. I think it prepares us. We get more knowledge. And we're not just getting everything, prior, and we can make adjustments if needed, in the public eye. So, yeah, and you hit it right on the head as well, Mayor.
Commissioner,
none of us.
you hit on a good point as well. I just, by having this pre-meeting workshop, it is in by no means, not my intent at least, to, I don't think it's anyone's intent, to prevent any of you from having your own private meetings. If you still feel like you need to ask questions in private to staff, then do what you need to do. But, for me, it's really important for me, from our oversight roles, that we are all hearing the same information. And
Yes.
so, and quite frankly, if you ask a question, Commissioner Turkin or Commissioner Hay, I don't want to give staff the runaround asking the exact same questions because I didn't know that you had already asked those questions and already been answered. So that should be more efficient, I hope. And that's it for me. Anything else from my colleagues? Okay. And so again, by having this workshop, we'll have a discussion of what we're okay with and not okay with. So they'll republish with an updated version that reflects the will of the majority.
Correct. And just to
Yes.
clarify, what the workshop looks like is we have the draft agenda, for example, for the August 6th, and we are talking about what is on that agenda. And that will be the opportunity for the commissioners to say, you know what, I don't want this on the consent calendar. I want a presentation for this. So it gives city staff time to give you exactly what you need. Or you see a presentation and it doesn't have the information you wanted in it. It gives city staff time to prepare that as well. And so making sure you're getting what you need. Or there's a proposed ordinance on it and maybe you guys decide, you know what, we don't want to do this. Then we can pull that before the commission meeting so we have more effective use of our time and city staff and resources. And I really it'll help all of us collaborate better. And also city staff who's working on an item will be there. So you will be able to speak directly to them about why something is going forward prior to ever them showing up at the commission meeting.
All right, thank you, everybody. It sounds like we do have consensus moving forward, so we're going to continue to the next item. This is 3D, discussion of agenda format, public comment. I'm sorry, did you have one more question?
Something just crossed my mind.
Sure, go ahead.
If
About
we're
the previous item? Okay.
If we're gonna have these meetings on a Thursday, when should the agenda be posted? Is there like a standard day that we should have it by?
Yeah, the draft agenda will still be posted on Tuesday. And by draft, it means this is what the city staff is proposing. On Tuesday, you guys will finalize the agenda, right? And by finalize, I mean taking something off, maybe adding something, maybe pulling something from consent or wanting a presentation. And then it will be reposted on Friday as the final agenda for the Tuesday meeting.
All right, sounds good. All right, let's continue. The next item, 3D, discussion of agenda format, public comment, and comment cards. Let me just begin by saying, I'm sorry, sir, this is a commission workshop. We're gonna move, the next item is this, all right? And then there will be a public audience thereafter. So again, this is discussion of agenda format, public comment, and comment cards. Let me just begin by saying, there was a community meeting last night where a series of lies were lodged against me. I have a pretty thick skin, not gonna change my world here, but let me just say that the next time you hear misinformation from outside sources, ask for the receipts, check for their sources, what are their motivations? Because as I've said today, and as all my colleagues know here in city staff, the mayor does not make the agenda. I don't even have access for the software to do that. The mayor does not have unilateral power to do anything. And if I wanted to give funds to a community organization, I need 2 votes at least, right? So this is always a group effort. And so lies were made about something I supposedly did last meeting. I wasn't even here, okay? So check the receipts and make sure your information is accurate. So to make this discussion easier, let me go backwards and let me ask my colleagues, comment cards. I know this has been floating in the ether for discussion. I'm indifferent, but really what matters is what the majority wants. As staff, did you want to have just an intro to comment cards and say generally what it's about, or what,
Sure.
Should just open that up and then we'll take input from my colleagues.
Sure. So in almost all jurisdictions of our size, and even smaller ones, they have comment cards. The purpose of comment cards is really for legal purposes in case there's ever any challenge to the meeting. You have a clerk who is taking minutes, and she needs to be able to get names and addresses for not only for follow-up, but as you know, we have had some meetings that have been challenged, and therefore it's difficult to go back and, as you say, check receipts as to who was there and what item they spoke on. That is the sole purpose. It also does open up, some people don't like public speaking, so it gives them an opportunity to write their comment down and have it read into the record for those people who don't like public speaking. The other option in those cities, if we have somebody who is not available at the meeting, they can certainly submit their comments online, also to be read into the record. But it really helps us with record keeping. Those comment cards become public record, and it also helps with any future challenges with regard to the meeting process, and any potential litigation that may come up as a result of that.
Thank you, Council. Go ahead, Commissioner Cruz.
Thank you for bringing this up. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I do not support comment cards. I don't believe it's what we need to do in this city. We should give the people the authority and the ability to speak on items as they walk into the meeting. I do know it works for other municipalities. I don't believe it works for Boynton. Also, I did see at a previous meeting that there was a potential for reducing or completely removing online public comment. I also do not support that. I want to make sure that the people who are disabled or senior citizens who are at home and don't have transportation are able to voice their concerns, and we can hear them out. So I would like to continue to have online public comment and also no comment cards, and allowing public comment to happen at a time in the meeting where it's reasonable and where it's hopefully before the items that are going to be heard, and not at the end of the meeting after the items have already been voted on.
All right, thank you so much, Commissioner Cruz. To my colleagues, I was hoping to attack this conversation piece by piece, beginning with just comment cards. However, if you feel truly compelled to cover all those items, that's fine. But right now, I just want to focus on comment cards, and let's get a clear consensus either way. So clearly, that was a no from Commissioner Cruz on comment cards. Vice Mayor, let's turn to you, your thoughts on it.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm kind of like you, I'm kind of indifferent on this because I see the value in having follow-up. I mean, there's been plenty of meetings where we've had people speak during public comment and then they leave. And then they come back to the next meeting and they say, I was here at the last meeting and I complained about X, Y, and Z, and then there was no follow-up. But there's no way for us to reach out to that person without having some follow-up. And one of the things in the meetings that I have chaired, Mayor, is I've, kind of disclosed that during public comment. If you need follow-up from a staff member, there's staff members here. But, there is that value in having that comment card. And by no means does the comment card require you to say what you're going to even talk about. And you can add whatever information you want or leave out whatever information you want. So but I also agree that my concern is that if we say that this can't, there's a time frame, like it has to be within the first 5 minutes. I also, I feel like, and during the public comment time, they should be able to speak. And so I don't know, City Attorney, how you address that if up until the point, if they can walk up and hand it to the clerk at the time that they're, because the previous conversation that we had about comment cards many, many months ago was that it would cut off, and if it wasn't turned in by a certain time, then you weren't going to have an opportunity to speak. And we know that a lot of times public comments come up as we're discussing items or as things come up. And so, that is one of my concerns with this also.
Do you want me to address that?
Yes, please.
No, actually, comment cards would be allowed up until the conclusion of public comment. And then with regard to, let's say it was a public hearing item, up until that time that public hearing came up, they can still submit a comment card. That really, for public hearing, it's very helpful because we can make sure that the person is sworn in and all of those things, because we kind of do this mass swearing in. It makes it a little difficult. But no, in the jurisdictions I've worked in previously, there was no cutoff, and I don't recommend one as to the time. Because like, what if you had to pick your kids up from school and take them home before you could get here? You might be running late. Or something comes up that all of a sudden you decide you want to make a comment on, as long as it's done before the conclusion of the public comments section.
Right. And then is this something that we could do as a volunteer? Like, let's say we have it provided for the purpose of, if you want your comment to be added to the record, but you don't want to fill out a comment card, could it be an optional thing where we provide it, it's there in the room, if somebody walks in the room, they're not comfortable speaking, but they want to fill out a comment card, they want it to be part of the record, but the majority or the few people who want to at will come up to the podium and not fill out a comment card, can we make it an optional thing where we're not forcing everyone to fill out a comment card, and that it's an option for somebody who isn't comfortable speaking and wants to just fill out a comment card, or wants to say, hey, check out the speed bumps on Southwest 2nd Street and follow up with me. Is that an option?
It is certainly an option, and it's well within this board's discretion to do whatever they please. My recommendation, though, as your lawyer, and that's all it is a recommendation, is to do one or the other, but if that was a happy medium, maybe for someone who wants to get a follow-up, then yeah, whatever the board wants to do, it's certainly within your discretion.
Yeah, I think that I wouldn't want it to be a requirement for everyone who is here, but I like the option of if they wanted follow-up, if they wanted their comments put into the record and officially, then that would be an option. But that's kind of my position, is I don't necessarily want to require everyone to have to fill this out. But making it an option is kind of where my mind is set, so.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Your points, as well as Commissioner Cruz, are well taken. And I'm so glad you did bring up the time constraint of when you can bring up with your public comment card, because I thought some of the feedback I got from the residents, that was like the most compelling argument. One of the things I heard was, well, what if you think, if you're in the audience, somebody in front of you speaks, and because of what they said, it makes you think of something else, and now you want to say what you want to say. So this, and by no means prohibits that from happening. They can still come up up until the end of the very last person. I would say also that I'm not sure that it would be, in terms of operation, it would be smooth if we did half and half. It's either, I think we'd either do it or don't do it. Alternatively, if that, if that ends up being the majority will of this board, maybe there is a period that gradual period of transition. But in general, I wouldn't do half and half permanently. It might just cause more confusion and unnecessary drama. But okay, that's my thoughts for now. Commissioner Hay, your thoughts?
As far as the comment cards are concerned, I'm
Yes.
against the comment cards. And I listened to what has been said as far as filling out a card. I can understand the clerk's point of view, because many times I can't understand what the people are saying too when they come up here and say their names. So I guess I'm more in favor of some type of hybrid. By that I mean fill out a card if you're going to speak, and give us printed your handwritten name and address. I'm against the item because, just as was stated, your thoughts may be triggered by some other comments that are being said. So I would be in favor of just filling out a card with the name and address on it. As far as recorded for the record or not, I think everything that's done here on this dais by this city council should be recorded. That's just extra work for our clerk, Maylee, make that Tammy, and I don't think we need to do that because now you got to determine, which is, did they put in the card for it? They want it recorded, not recorded. Everything that's done up here is recorded. And I think the problem is more or less identifying by name and maybe address the person who's speaking. But they should be allowed to speak on any item at any time. So no time constraint. So I guess I'm looking for more or less some type of hybrid where you specify your name and your address, and that's all.
All right, Council, go ahead.
The only purpose of the agenda item, and it's not to limit them on that, it's really to distinguish between whether they're speaking on a consent item or whether they're just speaking on a public hearing item. But they could certainly leave that blank if they didn't have, depending on the board's will, if they just had a general item about a pothole, right? And it's not on the agenda, they certainly don't have to put that. That was only for the benefit of knowing in which section they were going to speak about, if they were speaking about a specific item. But they certainly could have the option of leaving that part blank. The most important information, literally, is the name and address.
And that's what I'm saying. The mayor actually controls that as far as when that person can speak on this item or that item. There are some items that you don't accept
Correct.
public, and the mayor controls that. So, as I stated before, I think the resolution here is just to have the name and the address, and everything else remains just like it has been before.
The only comment I would make is I would still recommend the section that allows if they want their comment read into the option of putting their written comment down in case they don't want to speak. And then if there's a box to check if they would like follow-up. So that, they don't
I
have
hear
to
what
fill
you-
that out.
I hear what you're saying, legal, but if it's not recorded, why are we allowing them to even speak? Because I may want to go back and read what was stated when I go back and listen to it, or I don't want to have to determine whether or not this is not part of the record, so it's not important, it has
Would
not
be
that
read.
much value, or what are we saying here?
No, I'm sorry if I'm misspeaking. You would have an opportunity on the optional, on these comment cards, to say, I don't like the potholes on such and such street. Please follow up with me. May Lee or Tammy would take that card, read the name of the person, and this is a comment to be read in the record. She would actually read it into the record. So May Lee would be speaking, reading that person's comments, because not everyone is comfortable with public speaking. So you're actually giving people, or maybe they aren't able to communicate with us because they have a hearing impairment or a speech impediment. So in my view, it's opening up the potential for more public participation. But it's optional. You can make it so that they don't have to put that information. The minimal information, if this board so chooses, could just be the name and address.
So how do we handle that now?
We don't handle that now. We don't have that mechanism.
So, I mean, it's worked in the past, I don't, if.
But how do we know if they don't complain?
But, you know, if they really have something that they want to get through, they can have someone else say it, okay? You certainly can do that, but it has not been a problem in the past, so why are we trying to make it a problem now? So I understand what you're saying, I really do. But it's been working. If it's not broke, don't fix it. The only thing I see is getting the name and the address, and that's my position.
All right, thank you so much. Let's continue because I want to make sure all members of the commission have had an opportunity to speak. Commissioner Turkin, your thoughts
Mayor.
on comment cards?
Yes. First of all, good for you, Mayor, for standing up for yourself. I was also slandered and defamed at that community meeting last night, so good for you. So here's the thing. The comment cards, you know, I'm hearing both sides. I think maybe like a sign-in sheet at the entrance of the meeting, who's there, if we want to identify, you know, who wants to speak, anyone can come up. You know, obviously, you know, I'm pro public comment. I'm not pro hate speech. I'm not pro slandering. I'm not pro, you know, isolating a demographic of individuals or, you know, calling people out by name. You know, I want to make sure that we provide that speech, that free speech, but we can't, you know, we can't allow for hate speech or anything like that. And so taking a step back and looking at this, I could, you know, I want to look at both sides. How can, whether it's you, Mayor, or the chair, or anyone, identify what somebody is going to say until they get up there if you didn't have comment cards? Someone could go up there and start speaking and trying to, I don't know, incite a riot or, you know, whatever the case may be, start talking about a demographic of people, which isn't right. We shouldn't stand for that. We've seen, you know, we've seen what political rhetoric does. We've seen it at the highest level. We had an attempted assassination on the former president. So rhetoric does matter. Hate speech does matter, and it's something that we should not allow in our chambers. So I could definitely see both sides of the argument because it puts the chair, whoever that may be, in a difficult position to then say, "Hey, well, you're talking about a certain community. You know, please stop." Right? At what point do you draw the line? If you did have comment cards, then you would know what this individual is talking about. And then you'd be able to identify, Is this hate speech? Is this, slander or, isolating the city manager or city attorney, whatever case, that may be. So, I'm indifferent. But again, I don't know if the comment cards are going to really be as effective as we may think they could be. So I just want to make sure, that we can have that follow up. So even if it's, again, maybe a compromise is, hey, if someone wants to speak public comment, they just sign in a sheet here, and the clerk has it or city attorney has it, whoever has it. That way we know, hey, this person wanted to follow up. Check yes, we can call them, if it's for potholes or whatever else. But I don't think we need to pull out cards and then, call the person up. I mean, I can see it both ways, and it definitely puts whoever the chair is in a bind, if we're following the decorum for that meeting. And then, are we just talking about the comment cards right now?
I would prefer that. So
Okay.
we tackle this piece by piece.
Okay. So yeah, maybe just a sign-in sheet, get people's names, numbers, and we can follow up with them. And, that's it.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Thank you to my colleagues. What I am hearing from all of you, we have a very clear no to comment cards from Commissioner Cruz, and we have some indifference. The point is, there's no one here that's strongly advocating for them, and as such, I'm going to interpret this as not to proceed with comment cards, all right? Are there any objections from my colleagues on this matter? Okay, I am not hearing any objections with that. The direction is clear, not to have comment cards as proposed. Now, the next topic of conversation here is public comment and the scope of which that we allow for public comment. I know, as I previously mentioned, and as you can see, and as anyone can see on the front of the agenda, it says here under public audience, any citizen may be heard concerning any matter within the scope of the jurisdiction of the commission. And so the question came about, and again, my colleagues will chime in a moment, do we, in our public audience portion of the agenda, maintain that requirement that it be within the jurisdiction of the scope of the jurisdiction of the city, or do we allow it to be basically anything and everything? So for example, previously, if you wanted to speak about school board matters, you go to the school board, right? That's the appropriate place to do that. If you wanted to speak about your concerns with the state law, you go to your state rep and your state senator. Now, there could be an argument made, so this is why I want to hear from my colleagues, if you just want to remove that requirement altogether, and so anyone can say anything about anything, assuming that it is not hate speech, it is not a personal attack, and so on. So those obvious considerations. And so that's the question I'm putting forth for all of you. And, let's go around the dais, your thoughts on that. But either way, I need to hear it from you so we can make a decision as a body. Anybody would like to begin? Does it matter the order?
Mayor.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think that, I think it's difficult to tell someone that they have to speak in a certain scope, or a certain, on a certain road, per se, or a topic. And I think that, public comment is an opportunity to speak. Would we love for them to limit it to what's going on in our city or what we have control over? Sure, but at the same time, it's also a public comment and a mechanism for them to speak in a public forum. So I, my position, has, been clear that you can, as long as you're being respectful and you're being courteous, you can speak about what you would like to speak about. That, we are, it's a public setting, and so I don't know if somebody starts their conversation, if they're going to end talking about the trees on Lawrence Road. So I also don't, so we have to, I think, be mindful of, of, although maybe the direction is not where we foresee it going, we never know what the end is going to be. And so I err on the side of why should I be or you be put in a position, or any of us be put in a position where we have to decide or be the judge in a situation to judge whether or not what they're saying is also not falls within our city jurisdiction. I think that that's a kind of a wide kind of blanket, you know, and although maybe it's specifically not, you know, we're our government entity, and so I feel like just about everything trickles down eventually to municipalities, so.
All right, Vice Mayor, I appreciate your thoughts and opinions. There are pros and cons to everything. I'm indifferent. As the chair, I will enforce whatever is the rules that this body decides, but it needs to be made clear, which is why we're having this conversation, because for years, even prior to me becoming mayor, that language has been on the agenda, you know, I don't even know how many mayors ago that's been on there. So thank you for your opinion and for your clarification. Anyone else would like to jump in? Commissioner Hay or Cruz or Turkin? Doesn't matter the order, just your thoughts on the matter.
Sure, I'll speak. As far as public audience, I think public audience should be for non-agenda items. That you give them the 3 minutes to speak on
Yes.
whatever they want to speak on. I feel that the agenda items, you allow them to speak on that, as you call them, but you allow them to speak for the 3 minutes
On those agenda items, you mean?
on the agenda items when we get to that item.
Yes, we're on the same page.
And as far as the legal section, I relate to that. On the first reading of legal items, there was no public input. Only on the second reading
That's correct.
was public audience allowed. So, okay, all right. And that's where I'd like to see it operate.
Okay.
So when we have public audience, it's on items that are not on the agenda.
Yes.
Well, no, public audiences also covers consent items,
Both,
right?
yes.
Well, yes,
Or
if-
resolutions.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay, if someone.
So there
pulls
might be something on the agenda that's covered in public
Consent,
audience.
I go along with that, okay.
Yes.
No problem, no problem. But other than that, and then items on the agenda, we allow them to speak when we come to that item.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Hay. I do need clarification from you about public audience, that period in the agenda about non-agenda items and consent. During that time, would you like to maintain it as that people can discuss things that have something to do with the city, within the scope of the jurisdiction of the city, or would you prefer that it be literally about anything? Could be national things, it could be state things, could be school board things,
To be
and so on.
perfectly honest with you, they're given 3 minutes to speak,
Okay?
whether it be on city business or saying the Lord's Prayer. They got 3 minutes, okay? And they're entitled to freedom of speech. So I just feel that public audience, you got 3 minutes, and you speak what you want to say. It's not a QA time, okay?
That is right. It is
However, what I would like to see is a follow-up on those items that needs to be followed up on. There's a tendency that we have people come up with public audience and they speak what they want, and it's city legit type comments, but there's nothing done. And in my mind, I'm thinking, that needs to be responded to, okay? So I'd like to see us do a better job, not saying that we don't, but I think we can do a better job of responding to those items that needs to be responded to from public audience.
All right, thank you. So from what I'm hearing, there are 2 members that have made it very clear that they are willing during public audience to extend the scope to literally anything, assuming, again, not hate speech, insults, all of that. But if you want to talk about national politics, or,
Can I add this one thing?
yeah, go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay,
You
I
wanna
just do want to answer this one thing. I want to say this, that if it goes south. I think you, as the mayor, need to shut it down. I'm getting tired of being called, you know, with the F-bomb and everything else, everything but a child of God up here. And there's nothing said or nothing done about it. It's too selective. Sometimes we say something, and sometimes we don't. We need to be consistent, okay? And I think everybody in here know and can go back and look at the tapes of the numerous times that not only myself, but others, even staff, been called names that should not be allowed. And your comment that you read, you should enforce it more,
More.
okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner, I completely agree with you. You know, certainly, I am not perfect as a chair or as a human being, and I do strive to do that. But I do want to also say to my colleagues, wherever I do fail to do that, be it known that you, as a member of this commission, have the right to speak up and say, and you can do that calmly, respectfully, Mayor, the comment that was said was actually an insult. It was a derogatory term. Let me know, because if you just say that calmly and peacefully, I will gladly enforce the rules. And so certainly I'm not perfect, Commissioner, and I do apologize to you for anything of my shortcomings. But I rely on all of you as my colleagues to speak up, say something, and I enforce the rules that the majority wishes.
Point well taken.
All right, thank you so much. Now we've heard two. Let's continue to the other two, Commissioner Cruz and Commissioner Turkin. Your thoughts on the matter. I don't care who goes first. Somebody just go.
Go ahead, Commissioner Cruz.
It was Mumblewood.
He was telling you.
He said go ahead.
Go
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm okay with having general public comment. Sometimes I do know we have items on the agenda that are first reading, and we don't usually have public comment for first reading. But a lot of times, these are things that are important to our community, and people want to, you know, voice their concerns about it. So in a general sense, I would say, in a perfect world, yes, everybody would come in and talk about, you know, city jurisdiction, business, and that's absolutely ideal. However, sometimes, as Commissioner Kelly stated, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Kelly stated earlier, it's difficult to discern, you know, what the next word is going to be for an individual, and you know, they could start with a thought and maybe finish with another thought. So I think it puts you in like a really difficult situation to try to discern that, and it's a really tough call to make. So I would be open to allowing the people to speak on what they want to speak on for the 3 minutes, as long as it's respectful. And if there is, you know, one more thing I wanted to add is, you know, do we want to define what, I mean, we don't want to get too much into that, but do we want to define what an insult is, right? Because is saying something like, you know, let's say, hey, Commissioner Cruz, I called you and you didn't call me back. That's not an insult per se. It's just letting, you know, saying just whether it's true or not, a comment. So it's also not fair to you for us to say, well, you didn't realize that was an insult, because people can take things in different ways, unless it's, you know, very explicit per se.
Yeah.
That's all.
Commissioner Cruz, I want to thank you for bringing that up, because I do want to clarify. It would never be my intent for any of you to be attacked. I mean, as someone who's been attacked many times, that certainly would not be my intent. There might be, again, I could be mistaken, I admit to that. There might be differences in interpretation, and you just brought up an example, right? So if somebody were to criticize me, let's use me as an example, about my public role, the mayor is this, and he's not doing this, he's not answering my email, or it's about my public job. I think that's fair game, right? Because it is about it's not about, oh, Mayor Ty's personal life, or Mayor Ty's this and that. So that is clearly personal. But I have always thought, okay, allowing the maximum leeway for free speech. If there's a criticism about my job function and what I may or may not be doing, fine. And and one of the things I said earlier in this meeting, and I hope to continue to say it more and more, and for all future meetings, when you address the body, if you've got a problem with your commissioner, you don't have to address it to them. Address it to the body through me as the chair. I will take it. Bring it on. Bring it to me as the chair of the meeting. Direct it towards me, so it doesn't have to be directed. You could say, I didn't appreciate what staff did. I didn't appreciate what my commissioner did or did not do. Mayor, address it to me. So hopefully that alleviates, some of these misunderstandings. And again, that would never be my intent, but but like I said, I'm not perfect. So should I drop the ball, say something calmly and orderly. I'd be happy to address it. All right?
Absolutely. I think a point of order would definitely be appropriate. And
Absolutely.
And obviously, if it's somebody being called words that are insulting, that obviously, again, some words, we don't know all the words in the world, or nor do we come from the same places. But on a general sense, if
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
as you said, the commissioner can make a point of order and say, point of order, I'd like to, say that this is
Right.
offending me, and I would like for this to stop.
And quite frankly, Commissioner, it goes both ways. There have been times I've been attacked and no one here said anything, right? Now, I've always had a thick skin, so I'm like, okay, that's all right. It's part of the job, I take it, but it goes both ways. Okay, Commissioner Turkin, we already have 3 clear votes to proceed. However, of course, you have the right to speak as well and chime in on this matter if you would like to continue.
Yeah, no, I definitely would like to chime in. No, Mayor, you're being a leader. You took accountability and you apologized, Commissioner Hay, and if I was there, I'd give you a big hug right now. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for wanting to get better. I need to get better too. Could have handled that situation better, but freedom of speech is very important. But no, I agree. Let those 3 minutes, let anyone talk about what they want to, unless it's hate speech or targeting a protected class, right? And maybe we need to go over those. Trying to incite a riot or target a certain demographic. I think we definitely need to address. If you address the body as a whole and keep that consistent, I think you eliminate the insults. I think you eliminate targeting somebody, and that goes for staff as well. City staff and the board, I think, is where that should be. And if there's an issue, you hit it right on the head. Address it with the board. But no one's personal life should be persecuted. That I don't like. I don't agree with, and that's a two-way street, right? You don't agree with it, it's fine. You don't have to, but we're all community members. We all live here. We're all here just trying to make the city a better place, right? And it takes 2 to tango. We have to do that as a community, not as the people versus the commission, not as the commission versus the people. We are a community. We are all different. We come from different backgrounds, religion, race, creed, right? But we all have one common goal, and that's to move this city forward and do what's right and what's best for the taxpayers and residents, right? And so I don't want anyone to get personally attacked. And you have my word, Mayor. Someone attacks you, I'll point of order.
Thank you, Commissioner Turkin. We're now moving on to what I think is the last part of this discussion item, which is the agenda format. Last meeting that I wasn't here for, staff had published the agenda with the public comments into 2 halves. I just want some clarity from my colleagues. Do you want that, or do you want to combine them at the beginning? How would you like to proceed? Anyone would like to chime in? Commissioner Hay or Vice Mayor? Yes, the last meeting, the agenda was published with 2 public comment periods. My question is, do you want that, or do you want there to only be 1 public comment period at the beginning? Your thoughts either way. What is your preference? Commissioner, if you want to begin.
My thoughts is 1 public audience.
Okay.
I
At the
don't-
beginning.
At the beginning,
Okay.
like it has been. I don't like the concept of putting them at the end. There's a working class of people out there that needs to go home. Sometimes we stay here till the wee hours, and it's just unfair to those people to have to wait until the end of our meeting when we talk a whole lot and to say their say. So let it stay like it is, 1 public audience.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Your thoughts, Vice Mayor?
Yeah, that's always been my thought, is to have it at the beginning. My only, what came up actually in us having many conversations tonight was that, people think of things, during the course of the meeting, and then there's no opportunity for them to circle back also and make a comment known that they, or maybe they commented on an item that then was discussed, and now the answers to their questions have been answered, but they've left because public comment's over. So I can see the benefit in having the consent, if it's on an agenda item, having that, if they're coming to speak on an agenda item, on consent at the beginning of the meeting, and then general public comments at the end that maybe just are in general. But at the same time, I think it's also good to have public comment. For your comment, Commissioner Hay, is that, then they can leave. The only problem with that is we've run into where then there's no follow-up because everyone is gone that spoke about an issue, and staff is up here running the meeting. So I think that I am fine with it staying at the beginning of the meeting, but I think that we need to address then how to move forward with public concerns when everyone is gone. Because we have heard, and I said this during my comments about the comment cards, was we've had people come to meetings, a couple meetings in a row, saying, I was here last meeting and I complained about X, Y, and Z, but then they left after that comment, and there wasn't any connection with staff because maybe they didn't provide because it's optional to provide your address. So if you only provide your name and you only provide half of your name and you don't provide an address, then how is there follow-up? So those are my concerns, and, staff, I would just ask that maybe we look at some solutions to some of those issues. And I know Commissioner Turkin suggested some sort of sign-up sheet, maybe that, if there is an issue, please fill out, please sign, you can provide your name and address, because it's difficult also to send, when they're in public comment, it's not a Q&A, but then to direct staff to help or to assist. And so I don't know if that turns into a staff member who is at the meeting, is designated as that contact person. You're going to connect with so I would like to hear some recommendations from staff as far as how we do handle those follow-ups. Because what I don't want to happen is we've had this whole conversation, we've left things as they are, and then the meetings continue to kind of be dysfunctional because there is no follow-up and because it's just kind of messy. So those are my concerns in the public comment. I'm fine with it being at the beginning. I agree that people want to come and speak their mind and then go on their way or log on and listen to the rest of the meeting at home, or what have you. But but I reserve the right to change my mind. So.
Commissioner.
Just one statement, and I hear what you're saying, I really do. But we just said that they'll be able to speak at consent agenda up front, and anything that's on their consent agenda that they pull, they're going to speak at 3 minutes, okay? And if there's something on the consent agenda, can they speak on that?
No, public audience is for, as it currently is, it's anything on the consent agenda or a resolution. You only get to.
On the consent agenda?
Correct, but for example, if you were to pull a consent item, there's still no public comment as to that particular consent item.
Okay, but the point I wanted to make, Mayor, is that on those other items, since the agenda will be published, they will know what they want to speak on down the road. And it's up to that individual to stay here until that item comes up, and then they can speak on it.
If it's something they are permitted to speak on at the meeting.
Right. So it wouldn't be like they don't have an opportunity to speak on that item way down here on 9A or something. They would when it comes up. The mayor we've already stated, will allow public input. Is that correct?
Yes, as we normally do. So if there's
Yeah.
a specific item like new business that is a
Right.
If it's
resolution
just for
ordinance,
discussion, then it's not. That's,
not first reading. Let's
Right.
do final voting on a new item, and there's a final voting. There would be public comment on that period.
Right. Right.
Right? That's my understanding. Because in the beginning, public audience, that portion is for non-agended items, which we just agreed to open the scope to anything, and also consent agenda items, because that happens early on in the meeting. So, okay, all right, sounds like we're on the same page.
Okay.
And was there anything else,
No, that's
Commissioner? Okay, Commissioner Cruz, your hand is up.
I'm fine with having general public comment on anything, as we discussed earlier. I do understand that we need to handle city business, and at times we could have a packed room. So I would say, or I would suggest that in those instances where we have a packed room and we anticipate that the public comment might be 3 hours long, or, an extreme amount of time where, us doing business would be kind of challenged, or, it wouldn't be as appropriate as it should be, then at that point, what I would suggest is we can cap it to a 1 hour public comment on anything, as we stated before. And then we can move it to the end for any additional public comment after we handle business. Again, assuming that it's a large audience and that, but for an audience like what we have today, for example, I think that everybody could reasonably speak within a 1 hour period. But I don't want to make a rule today unless it's like we come in here and we realize, okay, the room's packed, we have hundreds of people here, there's no way it's gonna, it's gonna complete public comment within a reasonable time frame. At that point, then the commission can decide, do we want to do this today, and cap it to an hour so we can get business done quickly and then move on to public comment again. So I would leave it open to allowing any type of public comment, because at times, as stated before, we might have an item that is on first reading, and it's not gonna be, if it's not on consent and if it's not on first reading, we wouldn't technically have the ability to speak on it. So that's what I would say.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Cruz. You actually bring up a great point that I wanted to eventually segue to, which was about time in our public comment period. Listen, I completely understand what you're saying, and I'm inclined to, I'm actually very close to agreeing with you. Because what I don't want to do, I think we can all agree, everybody in the audience as well, and nobody wants to be here at midnight, nobody wants to be here at 2 a.m., and nobody, I don't think anyone would agree that making decisions at midnight or 2 a.m. is good for the city in any way, right? No good decisions are made when it's super late and we're all tired after a long day of working. So we want to hear from people, but at the same time, for the sake of doing business for the city, and let's say there's 50 people speaking, and we've had those, rare, but it's happened, that it gets pushed really way back. And quite frankly, do the residents really want to be here until midnight? I don't think so either. So I think there needs to be a fair compromise. The only area where I disagree with you, Commissioner Cruz, is that if we only apply, or we only enact those rules when there's a large crowd, can you imagine the reaction of that large crowd? Because now they will feel slighted that we're doing something just for them. And that's my only concern. But I agree with you that I don't think we should be doing business, city business at midnight, because we allow public comment to be 3-4 hours, right? So that's where I'm coming from. Commissioner Cruz, Commissioner Turkin, I haven't heard from you yet on this topic. So let's come to you, and we can do follow-up comments from my colleagues.
Yes, no, simple. Commissioner Cruz hit a lot of good points. I think really what this comes down to is let's keep it the same. Have the public comment in the beginning, and we can always adjust as needed, right? We have the authority to do that. We can adjust the agenda if we need to. If there's multiple public hearing items, multiple presentations, people visiting to give presentations, we want to make sure that we're equitable and fair to everyone. And so I think we just play it by ear.
All right, any follow-up comments from my colleagues on this matter? It sounds like we have consensus in keeping the public audience period and the beginning of the meeting.
There is one more thing.
Yes, go ahead.
Commissioner Cruz talked about it. So online public comment was something that was allowed and started during COVID by the governor. At that time, commissioners could also appear online. Since then, the governor has taken away the ability for, I mean, you could certainly appear and participate, and it's appropriate here where we're not making or voting on anything for example, Commissioner Turkin not to be present. However, that is no longer appropriate, and the governor has taken away ability. Since that time, many jurisdictions have taken away online public comment. So the board needs to make an overall decision if that is something that they want to do.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Turgan.
Thank you, thank you. So that's related to any voting items, Shauna. You can't vote virtually, which we're not
Correct.
voting on anything. This is all
Yes.
discussion.
Yes,
And-
and I
and-
guess my point
and
was
so-
just to say that
Yeah.
you guys
And I
aren't
think,
allowed to appear
you know, a lot
online.
of
One
times-
second. That's all right. We'll go ahead, Commissioner Turkin. I think there was some lag, but go ahead, Commissioner.
No worries. I think a lot of times we identify useful tools, you know, on uncharted situations, right? And so, you know, I think it was either Vice Mayor Kelly or Commissioner Cruz mentioned it earlier. Is there's a lot of seniors that maybe, you know, can't make it here. There's a lot of, you know, people that have disabilities that can't make it here. There might be people who just don't want to come to the meetings. Maybe they're busy with kids and a family, and you know, this allows them to be able to contribute, right? So, I don't think we should take that away for those who may not be able but willing.
Go ahead, Commissioner Cruz.
Yes, thank you. And I do agree with that. To follow up on what I said earlier, you know, specifically, I know at least a couple districts here, we have a high population of seniors, and we definitely want to make sure that our seniors are heard. But not only are seniors, also disabled individuals who are not able to leave their homes. We want to make sure that we're, you know, let's say ADA compliant, you know, allowing people an opportunity to speak, no matter their situation. And even families that have been working all day and they're not able to make it here. That was a good point as well. So, you know, for the sake of anyone who might have a disability, for senior citizens, I think it's important to make sure that we allow online public comment. A lot of times we've seen in previous meetings that it's not a significant amount of time. It's not hours and hours long, and it's usually only a handful of people that have those comments, but I think those people matter, and it's important to allow those people to speak and to voice their concerns.
All right, thank you. So we have, go
I'm
ahead,
sorry, a
Counsel.
clarification,
Yes.
and just to clarify. So is it something that's going to be open to everyone or just for people who need a reasonable accommodation?
For everyone.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, and the reason why is because, like, for us, we have a bit of a more solid foundation of knowledge of, like, what's consent agenda, what's first reading, what's second reading. But for the general public, like, you know, they're not all aware of the rules here, of how things work, of, you know, first and second readings, or the rules of at what point you can make public comment. So just to be, reasonable with people, I think it's important to just allow them to speak as they need to. I think if they didn't have the need, they probably wouldn't really try to make that public comment. So I was just saying for everybody.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Cruz. And Commissioner Turkin, I think I heard you say everyone as well. Is that correct? I don't want to put words in your mouth. Did you say everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone, because I don't know how you would try to identify that, and I just see, I see that going down a dark path to try to pick and choose.
Okay.
So everyone.
All right, sounds good. Anything else from my colleagues here? Commissioner Hake, Vice Mayor?
Well, I'm in favor of, everyone speaking online. I think that's convenience, as stated by Commissioner Cruz. However, I do have a feeling about commissioners who decide just not to come because they don't feel like it is unacceptable. I think it's part of the cost of doing business as a commissioner. And if you're not sick or out of town or have a reason that you need to make every effort to be here. And I do feel that If you're not here, you can comment and speak on an item, but you should not be allowed to vote. And you need to be present in order to vote, but you can speak on any item. But as far as everybody having online abilities to speak on a particular item according to the rules that we just set up, yes, let's keep it for everybody.
All right, thank you. Vice Mayor, anything else to wrap up?
No, I'm not gonna beat a dead horse. I just think that it's,
Okay.
you know, sometimes we have people that are just, you know, from out of the area and they're speaking just to speak. So, you know, although I, you know, want to accommodate the, you know, our seniors and our disabled residents and that, you know, that I think that sometimes we get people who are just, you know, not necessarily in our city, but they're just speaking to speak. So, but that's fine. I'm fine with keeping online comment because that sounds like the consensus, so that's fine.
Sounds good. Thank you, Vice Mayor. City Manager, it looks like you're about to chime in on something.
I just want to get a quick summary of consensus.
I was
for
about to do just that.
all three of the
Okay.
items.
Let's do that so there's no confusion. If you believe I made a mistake in summarizing, you speak up and you tell me, and let's make a correction. Comment cards, it was a no. Public comment, we have decided to remove the limitation on the scope of items that we're willing to hear under public audience, right? That is my understanding. We have also agreed to keep public comment or public audience as one duration in the beginning of the meeting, all right? And in terms of online public comment, we will continue to allow that. That is my understanding of all the topics discussed. Did I miss anything or did I missummarize anything?
Do we have clarity on commissioners voting when they're present and non-present?
Well, that is, your statement is correct under the current law.
Okay.
So what you have said is absolutely correct, that a commissioner can appear and speak and discuss an item. They cannot vote unless it's for a documented extreme medical hardship, and that would be on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, we will enact these rules starting now. Unless there's any objection, that means public audience. We will proceed now. If you'd like to speak, as always, you have 3 minutes per person. They are non-transferable. This is not a Q&A. This is a time for you to be heard. You will address your comments to me or to the body as a whole through me. All right, I just want to make sure that is clear. You are talking to me. You are not directing it to anyone else.
They need to be passed around.
All right, and let me switch the timer 1 second, Susan. All right, state your name for the record. You may begin when you're ready.
Susan Oyer, and I don't have to give my address. So, yay, power to the people. Thank you for doing the right thing up there tonight. So what I'm passing around is someone in code thought it would be fun to send me a citation or a courtesy notice, which is probably never the right choice, and Adam's probably cringing over there right now, waiting for my packet of information. So a little history. This is about the gravel I have in my driveway and front yard. So in 2018, and Mayor Pinsurga, you will remember this because you and I had a discussion about having an eco-friendly driveway, the grit and gravel system that they use around the rest of the world. And you admitted you had seen a video and how great this is. At some point that spring, and I don't remember the date because it was added on at the end of a commission meeting and while you were on the board, and but it's not in the minutes and it's not on an agenda. It was approved to allow me to have this grit and gravel system driveway. Well, in 2022, I had saved up enough money and went and had it completed. The permits were approved on 8/16/22. So right there, I'm having issue with code person Osiris Castillo, who's complaining about my gravel driveway. I have lived in that house for 12 years. I am not the only person with a gravel yard. There's a house in Forest Park that I've been walking, I used to walk by as a child. It's been there 20, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it is. Barbara can probably better tell you the street. And it's all cactus and gravel. And never has that person been harassed or bothered about their front yard. I have no grass in my yard. My yard was nothing but sand and some weeds when I moved in 12 years ago. My yard is the front is all gravel. I have no flooding problems anymore. And guess what? I have hundreds of flowers. So no one ever complains about my yard being ugly. Other people are emulating my yard by getting rid of their grass and trying to be more eco-friendly. So I challenge you to find something wrong with my yard, and I really think you should have a discussion with this person. And he's also harassing and bothering other people in my neighborhood and Commissioner Turkin's neighborhood about having artificial turf. So what I've given you is a variety of things, and this is just quick. This is not inclusive by any means. There's more out there. This is what I could quickly find: the 2008 statutes, the 2011 statutes, a letter from the state attorney on this, and the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act information. So I would appreciate it, and I have gone to Commissioner Turkin and the city manager, and I tried to reach out to Patrick Hart, who never responded back, and I think it's because no one gave him the actual message, because he's usually very responsive. But
right.
please look into this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next person. Begin when you're ready.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone.
Is the mic on?
Is that better
Okay,
for semi-short people?
go ahead.
My name is Barbara Reedy. Tonight, I would like to offer kudos to Commissioner Cruz and Commissioner Hay for asking very pertinent questions at the last commission meeting. Thank you for speaking up. I appreciate your speaking up as you did. Ordinances are the rules Boynton Beach commissions set for Boynton Beach. And ordinances do not just magically appear on nor disappear from city agendas. These processes have been well-established protocols for a very long time. There were 2 items that were dropped from that July 2nd agenda. One was an item that was added to that agenda by the city attorney as an update on the E2L issue under the legal category on the agenda. Some of us would still be interested in hearing that update that the attorney planned to give at some point. I'd also like to offer a suggestion that to deal with the enormous to-be-determined list that has been dragged on agenda after agenda after agenda, perhaps if the city manager would parcel out the list of what, most of them are questions that the commissioners have. Parcel them out to the appropriate city department and just get answers to your questions. Because after all, everyone deserves to have their questions answered, even commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker on the other podium.
Mike McCray, former commissioner for the city of Boynton. First of all, I'd like to say the commissioner from District 2 made the statement about what if somebody gets up and walk around, and we were doing the ethics discussion. When I took that class about 15 years ago, that was one of those requirements. And sir, you are right. There's a lot of things that you all need to correct up there. You talked about your agenda. Mayor, you need to go back and find out when this was put on. I served where you all are serving. When it was put on, nobody sat up there and read it to the citizens. They said it's found on the second page. We are not in a classroom setting, sir. You want us to respect you. You all have to respect us. We're citizens, we're adults, we pay your money, and we expect things in return. In regards to the attorney saying that she wants something to do, hopefully she can get some of these lawsuits straightened out. Talking about she wants things to look into. There's a lot in the city of Boynton that needs to be looked into. She's a full-time employee. I don't know what she does, and I really don't care. But I don't think we're getting our money's worth. Just address everything to you. When you read this, think about, do y'all have a decorum for you all up there? July, the first meeting in July. You all should have, the police is in here that likes to take the citizens out. They should have escorted the 2 of you out, and the meeting should have still went on. I want to say to the commissioner for District 1 the vice mayor, and the commissioner for District 2. When the two of you wasn't here, you all carried on like champions. What an excellent meeting, and you all should be commended. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening, Harry Woodworth, Boynton. First off, thanks a lot for letting me speak, and I'm thanking the commissioners that brought up the what I thought was dead and buried strategic plan. The ember's still there, so maybe we could blow on it a little bit and get it going. You wouldn't build a house without a foundation. I mean, none of you would do that. You wouldn't go on a hike in the woods without a map and a compass. I mean, you wouldn't go on a big trip without a road map or your Google thing or your GPS if you still use it. But you'd run a city for 2 years, $100 million budget plus, without the same thing. No roadmap, no goals, no visions, no plans to have those things, and we're in our end of our second budget cycle without the foundation, without the compass, without the roadmap. I guess, you know, when I started talking about this in April of 2023, you guys were new, all of you, and I thought that maybe this would add some value because there was a lot of going in circles going on. And it just seemed possible that maybe this would be something nobody had thought of. Every other company in the world's thought of it. Most companies, most cities, most state governments all around the world do this. They've done it since the 20s in academic settings. I mean, the books started coming out in the late 1800s. This is not new stuff. Okay, having clear goals and clear visions lets you know what to do, where to take the place. Not one person sitting here tonight can tell the 80,000 residents of this city where we're going. Not one of you. Not the city manager and not the commissioners. And I'm not picking on you guys. This is simple stuff. Where are we? Where would we like to be? Write it down, communicate it, and start working on it. Because after you vision it, if you don't do it and plan it and have goals, it doesn't happen. And I lived here 40-some years, and I've watched it year after year. Foundation, a compass, a map. My God, we can do this. It is not that complicated. It does not need a consultant. You're making $250,000 a year. You can do this. This is not hard. Do it. Otherwise, how do you prioritize the initiatives? How do you prioritize the resources? How do you prioritize the goals? How do you prioritize the projects? How do you prioritize anything without knowing where in the heck you're going? The compass, the foundation, the roadmap. This is not complicated. Please don't make me come back here for the next year of my life. I'm 75. I'm getting old. We got to get this going. Please be able to tell the people of this city what we're doing with hundreds of millions of dollars year after year. Where in the heck are we going? Take the cardboard off the bus, look at the dashboard, and let's figure out where we're taking this place. I'm just one, but the other 79,000 would probably like to know too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next speaker.
Cindy Falco Di Corrado. I would like to thank you all for tonight. You did the right thing by choosing to uphold the First Amendment of freedom of speech. And I would appreciate that you do understand that we do pay your salaries and that we do have things to say. We live in this city. And I was listening to the dilemma about people up here who have questions and you don't have their address or way to get back to them. Well, this precious lady sits right here. She had cards right here. And someone had a situation, she could say before they leave the podium, please take this, fill this out so that we can get your information, so that we can answer your question. Also, there's emails to every one of you commissioners. You're represented in your communities. That's on the record as well for people that might not know. If you're writing to your commissioners and you're telling them your issues, if you don't feel comfortable to come up to the mic, you can still talk to your commissioners. Those are your representatives, Americans. Also, I heard other little dilemmas. Again, we are your bosses. I know you don't feel that way, but we do pay your salaries because we do have the tax dollars that pays your bills. And as was stated earlier, we want the same respect that you want. You know, when someone calls the city manager a peckerwood and calls me an indigent and all these other names, and it's not heard by the person that's the chair, but yet sends somebody to beat me up, it's unfathomable. And to sit in there and to watch and to hear, not just the first time, but other times that I've said things that I was talking on target and just because someone didn't want to hear it, shut the mic off. Those are very rude and disrespectful things. First of all, as an elder, I'm older than probably, not you, but most of you, okay? And so I would just respect. You know, you want respect, you give respect. And you have to respect, too, that we're sitting out here, and what we see and what we hear sometimes, our time is valuable, and sometimes people say the same thing 10 different ways, and it's the same thing. Our time is valuable, too. So when you're making your decisions and you're pandering back and forth, get to the point, because it's very hard to sit out here when you hear the same thing being said 10 different ways and the answer was already spoken. So respect that our time is valuable, just like your time. You work all day long, too. You're tired. You come here. Respect us. Respect us. Respect that we work hard to pay your bills, to give you a salary, and you were elected officials to represent who? We, the people. All I ask is you do that with respect and honor. And these special groups that you talk about, we're all special. Why? We're all created in the image of God. And if you start separating people out by shades of beige, by sexual preferences, then you're creating the division. That's not unity. Unity is we all created in the image of God. You're my brother, you're my sister, and I should treat you much better. And I should lay my life down for you, because the Bible says to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And the first commission is to love the Lord thy God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. And then love your neighbor. And that goes with you guys sitting up on the dais as well as us out here. And we need to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, next speaker, state your name for the record and begin when you're ready.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Monica Roundtree, collectively native of the city of Boynton Beach. I just want to say I have plenty of friends who work for the city of Boynton Beach, and most of the staff that work here for the city are truly unaware of this. I don't even know what it's really called, this internal investigations position that was department position that was created, I'm assuming by the city manager, without getting, I guess, the commissioner and board's approval, because when I speak to some of my commissioners, they couldn't give me a rhyme or rationale for that. But, and it was due to an ancient ordinance, as you say, attorney, a loophole that was found that allowed this board to be, this department to be created. And a lot of the city workers are walking on eggshells and concerned about their jobs, but they're blaming it on the commission and the mayor. And coming to find out that really its oversight is not the commission and the mayor. And I just want to help get that clear up for my friends who may be watching online, because they can't speak, because they're going to lose their jobs if they do so. So I just wanted us to consider that. Also, I wanted to commend Commissioner Cruz as well. Last week, I thank you for standing up when it came to the concern about the signature authority for the city manager, and the fact that our attorney was not able to even clearly give you a date for a form that was due, which seemed to kind of cause this deep concern to have the signature authority moved over to the city manager for, I guess, over 100,000 K, that he would get that. But I think that the time really needs to be spent to look at and overhaul the rules and regulations of our weak and bogus policies that still allow rogue police officers to keep their jobs despite, you know, their subpar professional services. We don't want the rogue cop back. We don't want the rogue cop back. My condolences goes out to the family of Stanley Davis III. But things are priority. You know, we care about what is going on in our community, and a lot of the things that we're talking about is petty. It's petty. And we're here, and we're here to stay, and we're gonna represent our community. So do what's right and stop, you know, having these backyard conversations and doing things that your employees are afraid to talk about. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next public comment speaker. After we finish with those in person, we will go to those online. I see that we do have 2 individuals online for public comments. State your name for the record and begin when you're ready.
Good evening, Phil Turano, Lake Worth, Florida. Mr. Mayor, I wanted to bring something to show you this evening. This is one of my prized possessions. It's a state champion plaque that I received for coaching a team right here in East Boynton Little League. I understand that you guys will be having a meeting that you voted on for the Little League. One of the reasons the Little League has a lawsuit against you is because of the lack of communication from staff. Lack of communication for a particular individual who now holds exclusive rights to a field. The darkest day that I ever had was introducing Mike Barwas to this city. And the reason that is because Mike Barwas isn't here for our community. Mike Barwas is here for himself. About 3 or 4 days ago, there was an actual tryout that Mike Barwas did on the new improved field. Not one kid from East Boynton made it. That's a violation of his contract currently right now. The contract that was approved by staff, by individuals that are here this evening, and by individuals that are joining us virtually. Mike didn't come here for any other reason than to get a free field. Mike didn't earn this. I did. On another note, I'm going to try to sum through this pretty quickly. Mr. Mayor, I would like you to please take notice to an incident that happened on Seacrest Boulevard, May 23rd at 1:30 a.m. when I was rudely interrupted while sleeping for a DUI accident on Seacrest Boulevard, just south of Wilbright Road, which also took out the High Point entrance to that community. A specific commissioner came to that scene and got an individual out of a DUI. I'm asking that you run a full investigation on this immediately. Speaking of which, Code of Ethics was here this evening. I noticed that individual is not. And I think you guys can know who it is. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the chambers that would like to speak? Seeing no one else, we're going to move to those online. I see there is a Jessica Ferguson, IT. If you could please unmute Jessica. Jessica, I know since you're online, I will let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining on the clock so you can pace yourself. State your name for the record and begin whenever you're ready.
Good evening, all. Jess Ferguson here for allowing me to speak here tonight. I would like to take some time to congratulate our 11U East Boynton Beach Little League International All-Star teams for winning districts, sectionals, and states, and furthermore, traveling to Wilson, North Carolina, representing not only the city of Boynton Beach, but the state of Florida. We unfortunately did not get the W at the regionals, but I know that this team is now more motivated than ever to hit the fields as they think about competing next year with the goal of making it to the Little League World Series and once again representing our beautiful city of Boynton Beach. We're excited for what's to come. Additionally, I want to personally thank all our friends, family, local community, and local businesses for supporting this 11U All-Stars team and ensuring that they had the means and opportunity to travel to these away Little League tournaments. We were able to raise enough funds to cover their hotel expenses for their state's tournament in Tampa and their regionals tournament in North Carolina, along with a $100 stipend for food, gas to each of these 12 families. I'm extremely grateful to all for believing in them as much as I did and still do. And just, again, thank you once again. I would like or hope that the city publicly recognizes these boys for their amazing accomplishment for this All-Star season. I think they deserve it. And I quickly want to change the topics here. I once again would like to publicly state that our Little League is in dire need of 2 T-ball fields and hope that the city reconsiders adding these and to please not entertain any more ideas of indoor facilities if indeed that has been brought back up. Help us continue to grow our Little League and making these dreams come to reality and paving the way for all these boys and girls. Lastly, our East Boynton Beach Little League fall registration is currently open through August 10th, and we're looking forward to swinging into our fall season. So thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you. We have a Mike Taylor, IT. Please unmute that person. Mike, again, I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining on the clock since I know you're online. Begin whenever you're ready.
All right, perfect. I do want to say hi, Cindy. I am watching, and I wish I would have been at one of the last meetings, but I wasn't, unfortunately, but I did watch it. Second thing is I've heard the word thick skin. You know, The thing about the First Amendment is, yes, we have to have thick skin. My name's Michael Taylor, but I go by The Armed Fisherman on YouTube. You can reach out to me at thearmedfisherman@gmail.com. Contact me. The mayor, if you can pass this along to the attorney, tell the attorney to look into David Wardrose versus state of Florida and get your panhandling ordinance dealt with. The second thing is I keep hearing about these comment cards. We have a Fourth Amendment. Every one of you on that dais has sworn an oath to uphold and protect the Constitution. That is the Fourth Amendment, right? I have, unless I'm committed, you suspect me of a crime, you can't get my identification, but I digress from that. I have sent you emails, and none of my emails have been, I've gotten nothing, but regardless. Hopefully you start reaching out to me at thearmedfisherman@gmail.com. Let's see. Once again, what I'm hearing in Boynton right now is no different than Clearwater. I don't live in Boynton. I don't live in Clearwater. And I truly appreciate the fact that there have been numerous people that want to continue to let me from Port St. Lucie, Florida, to attend these meetings and discuss things that are very pertinent. These things you all swore an oath to, every one of you. So Clearwater is doing the same thing, and Clearwater has specifically made it because of me.
30
They've
seconds.
said my name. They've done everything. There's no doubt in my mind that what Clearwater and what Boynton's possibly going to try to do is no different. Respect our constitutional rights, and things would probably go a lot easier. But some people just can't. Once again, I come back to the thick skin. I have to have thick skin. I've got 200,000 subscribers, and I have to have thick skin.
All right, thank you,
and
sir.
So should you.
All right,
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
All right. Is there anyone else online? I see no one else online. With that, public audience is now closed. Let me turn to my colleagues if you'd like to make any final comments. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor. We have a second from Commissioner Hay. With that, all those in favor of the motion to adjourn say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.